Hello everyone, my name is Jamarl Thomas. I am your host. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And of course, this is my lovely wife.
Co-host. For Patreon Contributor Appreciation.
Contributor. And it's hard, right? It's hard to change that over after you've done it for so long.
Mrs. Jamarl Thomas.
Or Mrs. Thomas. I'm always a little weirded out by the Mrs. Jamarl Thomas thing because it feels like an ownership thing.
Mrs. Jamarl Thomas is like how you sound like your wedding thank yous, and like that's what it says like on your.
I don't think it says Mrs. Jamarl Thomas.
It does. It says Mr. and Mrs. Jamarl Thomas.
No way.
When you do your wedding stuff, it does.
It's ownership. It's the same. It's the same justification.
It's like taking your name.
Well, it's taking your identity. That's worse than taking your name. I shouldn't say your name is your identity, but it's like the same reason women can't walk around with no shirt on. Like that's such an odd thing to me. They can't walk around without a bra on, and they can't let their breasts hang free.
I can do whatever I want to.
And
no breast.
I'm in this thing of free the nipple. Have you seen guys, like they have these videos where guys a woman will be breastfeeding a guy, would be like, "Miss, can you go somewhere else to do that?" Oh, can you imagine that?
I can't wait to have kids and breastfeed all over the fucking place.
Just everywhere. Just in the park.
Everywhere. Just whip it out, feed the kid, and I dare you to say something.
You don't want me?
No, not you, but like a stranger.
Somebody else?
I dare you to walk up to me and tell me to put my boob up.
I think you could do that less today. But
what?
Definitely
Go crazy on them?
No. This thing of where guys would shush or tell the woman not to do that. That just seems like an extraordinary thing to me.
I'm gonna have like a slew of like media. I don't know, like maybe like pictures or something of like women's boobs. You know, like how
where are you putting these pictures?
They're like going to be in my baby bag, so that when people come up to me,
you're keeping pictures of women's breasts in your baby
so
bag?
that when men come up to me and they're like, "Ma'am,
that's not just called
ma'am,
porn.
That's inappropriate." It's not going to be naked. It's going to be like swimsuits, and I'm going to be like, "Is this inappropriate? Did you find this inappropriate? How about this, Bob?"
Wait. Were their tits showing?
It's going to be like women that are out in the public no, not their actual nipple.
Then how is that the same?
And maybe I'll put some porn in there. That's a good point. Maybe I'll put some porn in there.
I mean, if those guys watch porn, but see, they would make the argument, well, this is done in private. I mean, porn is not done in private.
I wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about like swimsuits and.
I get your argument. Your argument is, look,
and technically, if I'm feeding my child, you don't see the
that these women show these breasts all the time, and you're
right. You got a problem with her breasts.
You have no issue with these breasts.
Was this inappropriate? I guess you're missing my point. Is that I'm just.
I get your point. I'm just saying the point doesn't quite hit where they're going. Their thing is. But your point is, well, you're not seeing the nipple anyway. You're not seeing the nipple anyway.
My point is, it's
the
mine.
Kid's
it's
mouth
mine.
is on the nipple.
I'm feeding this child. Get out my face.
See, my point would be a little slightly different. My point would be, it's a breast. Your mom had them. Half of the population has them. If man can walk out with no shirt on, then it's no reason. And maybe I'll be the one who's making this argument.
That's what I'm saying. Now, since we'll be there, I'll have my... like enraged moment and like show the pictures and be like, "What about this, Bob? Do you like this, Stuart?" And then you can do your more sane presentation.
It's not really presentation. I just think he's wrong.
Okay.
And it's just making the case we're wrong. It's not that I think it's more sane. It's just I think this notion that women can't show their breasts is nonsense.
I feel you do.
I think the premise of it is nonsense. I think the premise of it is men having a certain domination and wanting to keep women chaste. And is doing so in this kind of impersonal way of society itself making a determination by saying, oh, it's lewd when women show their nipples, but it's not okay when men do so. I think that's nonsense. It's just a nonsense proposition to me. I am perfectly okay with having a conversation with some random asshole who comes up and says something like that.
You will, because if they do, I'll be like, wait a minute, let me get my husband on the phone.
On the phone. I've hoped for the opportunity to be able to do this in a third person way. Like if I'm near somebody and the guy does that. Person. Yes, that's what I've been waiting for the opportunity.
So what about if they're shushing me?
Oh, don't get me wrong, I would get involved. Clearly.
Okay.
But it's a little different when it's somebody who is like, like those videos where you would see where there's like...
See, Miss T says you can't even see the nipple. She calls it a T because, she's breastfed apparently. But you can't even see the nipple when a mom is breastfeeding, so it's the same.
It takes a moment.
So I'm whipping out those pictures and be like, what about this, Stuart?
There's a split second.
No, it's not. I mean, like, plus, also...
Also, if I was a woman, I'd be slow whipping her.
Honestly, we're making...
That's what I'd be doing.
God had a plan when you came into the room with the penis. He knew what he was doing. Okay, so I'm saying this and I'm making this argument, but they have these little...
Like, what about
I think it's called like an udder cover.
So
where it's
called
like
utter cover.
Yeah, I don't know, but I've seen
That's
it
not
like
sexist at all.
I've seen it on TV where it's like
A woman's breast.
it's like a blanket for like you cover your baby, you cover yourself and the baby, and it's a blanket that kind of
Maybe I'm more of a lefty on this. My point is, why do you have to do that?
No, it's not about having to. It's my personal
Thing I'm wanting to keep yourself covered.
And I'm screwed by society too because I felt like my breasts are sexual.
Yeah.
So I don't,
Well, they are in some contexts.
So, but when my child is eating,
at that point,
that's
too much. Too much.
I'm curious how women go from, and we're getting all the way just completely off the rails.
I think this is an interesting topic.
But
because we're getting to this thing of a paternalistic society, and that paternalistic society having things that have gone through the generations that have been accepted by the population of the society, men and women, as being normal. And I'm saying they're not normal. They just are cultural artifacts. This notion of women not being able to show their breasts is a cultural artifact. Not being able to breastfeed is a cultural artifact.
I understand all that. I'm curious to know, because Miss T said something about she's a 7-year breastfeed. Has breastfed for 7
right on,
years.
Miss T.
I want to know.
Do this shit in public, yo.
How does it feel for a woman to go from a sexualized nip to?
What do you mean?
A functional, like I'm kind of curious on how that will feel because like
you understand there's no such thing as sexual.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm talking about the feeling of the breast because like right now my breasts feel like a sexual thing, and like if they're touched or something like that, then it's a sexual experience.
You think you'll be turned on by your kid? It's like every time that kid sucks my nipple, I get aroused.
For the record, that is not what I said.
Well, you said how do you go from one to the other? I'm just wondering,
like, and then like too, like so, like if I'm breastfeeding today, and then like I put my kid down for a nap, and then I go to fool around, like how does that
comes up?
Like how does that work?
There's still milk production after that.
No, I understand that, but like if you do like a little rub,
is
it gone? You know what I mean? Like, am I going to be like, oh, no, that's not sexual for me anymore? Like, I'm curious how all that works.
My kid has been breastfeeding, so I'm not interested in sex anymore.
Miss Tree has...
I mean, that's what you're...
That's how you feel?
No, that's what you're asking.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute.
No, that sounds like what you're asking. It's like...
Right, that's what I want to know.
Up to this point, for the last 30-something years, my nips have only been used for sexual gratification. And now... and sometimes to push my shirt up when it gets too hot. And now, it's going to be used for... kid stuff.
Garden Gnome, is that true?
What?
Garden Gnome just said he's lying. I don't believe Garden Gnome. I'm gonna have to look into this. He said, Aisha, women talk about having orgasms when breastfeeding. That's just the way it works. Formula.
That might be true. I mean, why would it? Here's the thing, and I love the fact that Garden Gnome mentioned that. There's an idealized version of the world that doesn't exist. Like, one of the best things that I got from James Baldwin, and it's the most innocuous thing in the world. He said when he started reading other people like Dostoevsky and all this other stuff, he started to realize that the things that he experienced in life that he was ashamed of are just human things. And he's like, why am I ashamed of things that are just human? They're cultural overlays. So in this case, you're like, wait a minute, I've used this nip for sex for 30-something years, and now this kid is going to be feeding on it. Is there, clearly... God had to have made it in some way where there's a partition between the sexual part and the kid feeding part, and Garden Gnome is like, there's no God. He's like, there's no God in this process.
Somebody said they've heard the same thing.
That's fucking hilarious. I would imagine those women are ashamed by that, and they shouldn't be.
Miss Tree says, we're hormonal cocktails. I occasionally wish to wring other moms' necks who deny their babies while shopping sale racks. This Mrs. Moms pissed me off.
Wait, denying their babies? I don't know what that means.
Maybe like to drink, like to feed.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. I don't know how we got onto this topic.
I think women should be breastfeed by law.
Well, that's...
With the exception of women who can't do it.
Of men who have too much opinion and try to regulate.
I'm not trying to regulate your body.
You just said that I should be forced to breastfeed my child.
Should that kid be forced to drink formula? Even though that formula is worse for that kid?
This is a great segue into the abortion law, anti-abortion law.
But see, the slight difference here is the kid isn't born for Republicans. The kid is born for me. Now, granted, I'm being provocative here, but I'm going to hold this position. Fuck it. I don't know if I necessarily believe this, but I'll defend the position. Should that kid have rights when that kid is born? You have to feed it. You have to take care of it.
I know, but it's not like I'm feeding him bleach.
You don't know that. Well, let's say it this way. Formula does keep the kid alive.
Right, that's what I'm saying. No, it is. I don't believe that it is beneficial, and I think that scientifically in studies
breast milk is better. Yeah.
Right, that breast milk is better, but that doesn't mean that you're doing harm to your child by giving them formula, in which case a law to force me to breastfeed.
Shouldn't you want
what
to
if
do the
I
best
don't want
for your...
that orgasmic possibility?
So you're willing for your kid to get a raw deal because
Like,
you don't want
maybe
to feel some way?
Maybe I feel like I want to keep my breast sexualized.
But how do you know?
I don't know. I'm just giving a
And if you
point.
want to keep your breast sexualized, why have a kid?
Because I want to have a kid. That's a small part. I mean, that's not the end all or be all, like you would say, of having a kid is how
But
they're
if
fed.
they know that formula is worse for that kid, and if they know there are certain qualities of breast milk that A, get the mother closer to the kid in one sense, and is more beneficial for the nutritional, let's say, growth of that child, are you really, because of a fashion statement, want a worse situation for your kid?
It's not a fashion statement.
You said, I want my breast sexualized. Okay,
no,
for sexual gratification.
I'm not right for sexual. I want my body to still feel sexy.
Then why have a kid?
Because I still want to have a kid. You don't breastfeed for the whole 18 years or how 45 years of taking care of that kid.
But that kid does either benefit or to the detriment of
and
that kid for many years on.
Somebody made the point that some people can't breastfeed.
Oh, and I posited that. I said unless they can't. My provocative statement was
I don't want you to force me.
Wait. Women should be forced to breastfeed by law, with exceptions of women that can't. Like if you're putting out battery acid.
Women should be forced to have children, with exceptions that it's health risk.
But I don't think that.
But this is
That's
right in the
extreme.
same vein. This is right in the same
It's
vein.
not. And
you want me?
I think you're
forcing something that I have to do with my body.
The other part of that is the kid. You're missing the kid.
You act like I'm going to let him starve.
Breast milk is the best milk.
It is. And I agree. And I plan on I plan on breastfeeding my future possible children.
But why should you force your kid for a lesser scenario? Do you realize breastfed kids are smarter on average, stronger on average, healthier on average?
I know all that.
And you want your kid
and that
to
is
have
why
a
that,
worse scenario.
No, that is why that will be my decision.
But I'm saying
is to breastfeed
you're okay
my child.
With other women.
But Sally decides, for whatever reason that she sits down and concocts in her brain,
right.
I'm not going to feed my child my breast milk.
And
I am going to give my child formula.
And the rest of society has to deal with the fact that Sally did that, meaning the rest of society has to deal with a weaker kid. Not just a weaker kid. It's for, what if, when they're doing research, they find that on average, kids who are fed, let's say, formula milk, have lower weights, have more illnesses, have a higher probability of, let's say, lower IQ. And you can correlate that in a statistical fashion. Are you telling me that society should be okay with putting kids in a second tier? Because the mom, for whatever reason, maybe she just wants to be sexy, or she doesn't want...
What about kids who go to, like, lesser schools?
Wait. I'm just making this point, but I don't think kids should go to lesser schools. I guess my point is, should that kid get a choice in the matter when that kid can't get a voice? Meaning, should society speak for that kid when that kid can't say what that kid has to say? And society saying, all right, we want you to have kids. If you want to abort that kid, fair point. That's what I mean. But once that kid is here, you got to do what's in the best interest for that kid. And I'm sorry, those stunts are in the best interest of that kid. Now, you could say, well, what about pumping stations? Moms should be able to sell their breast milk, in which case people could just buy sold breast milk. I'm okay with that. I shut up. But those things should be used in the interest of that kid. What?
Okay,
it's provocative.
Gardner makes Jay Scott breastfeeder go to jail.
It's a penalty. It's a financial penalty. It's not a jail penalty.
What kind of financial penalty?
That's what the lawmakers work out. And by the way, this is the abortion thing, right? It says if you get an abortion, you go to jail. And then people are like, what's the penalty? You're going to put people in jail? And that's where people always get sketchy. It's like, oh, man, I don't know what put doctors or moms in jail.
Miss T says, no teat, no public school entrance, just like vaccines. That might be one way to end.
Mom's breastfeeding. That way you don't necessarily have to... I'm being provocative with this argument. You realize. But I can hold this argument.
I'm saying I don't like it.
But I can hold it. I can hold it. I can be on stage with it. I mean, it's not that I like it. I don't like this notion of putting moms in jail. But when you talk about the larger context of society and you start looking and say, okay, is there a statistical correlation with moms who breastfeed, meaning in the outcomes of those kids, versus mom that don't? And if you find that there's a statistical correlation, how do you ignore that? That just means that people who don't breastfeed have a weaker kid. And then you say, okay, well, why aren't they breastfeeding?
To what degree? I mean, my thing would be like, to what degree? And there's no guarantee that X, Y, Z is going to happen. Statistical. In which case, that's enough grounds for you to force a woman what to do that with her body.
What about the kid? Keep forgetting about the kid.
You act like the kid is going unfed.
I'm not saying that the kid is going unfed. I said the kid get a worse outcome.
So for foods that are determined to be unhealthy for a kid, are you going to put a law on stipulations on what type of food?
You know what King Thomas
maybe vegetables should only be organic for your kids because now the rest of the world has to suffer because you gave him pesticide-ridden. How far is this going to go?
I
starts with breast milk, and that is with my own body. I acknowledge that I have to give to this child.
I tend to be a little bit more hard ass on this stuff because I look at it from the larger outcomes of what does society look like when such things in place. For example, McDonald's. There will be no McDonald's in my world. Now, do I need to outlaw McDonald's? Probably not. But if a person gets food, I don't necessarily want that food to kill them 20 years later. If you find out that the food that people are eating, let's say McDonald's, Burger King, Hardee's, all of these places, they do research and they say, God, man, these things are like cigarettes. Whereas it takes cigarettes 20, 30 years, this is a little bit more, nebulous just because of all of the other stuff that people eat and everything else. But if you find out that, look, in 30 years, the outcomes of people who eat the stuff, higher heart disease, higher cancer, higher, and you can directly, should you get rid of all the McDonald's? Now, my answer would say, well, if you say you're trying to get rid of cigarettes, shouldn't you get rid of McDonald's? But that gets a little dubious. Isn't that the same question with this, about the breast milk stuff? If you find out that outcomes are worse with kids who don't have breast milk in comparison to kids that do, would you try to enforce or, let's say, compel? Maybe a law's too strong.
I think
let's say incentivize women to do breast milk.
Probably my biggest issue with this is you're forcing me something to do with my
Well, let's say incentivize. But see, I guess that's where it gets nebulous. Because at the point where you have a kid, it's not just your body. Like, if the mom wants to hang out at a club throughout the course of the week. No, the kid is not getting hurt, but the kid is getting hurt because the kid is missing the motherly attention. There are laws that means you have to take care of your kid. So the government is telling you to some degree that you can't let your kid suffer because that kid is a person at this point. It's a life. The mom, by virtue of having a kid, has to give up some of her rights to take care of the kid. It's not me saying it. She decided to have a kid. Now, it's one thing if the government decided mothers don't have to have kids anymore. Kids are going to be born in government factories and hatcheries, kind of like chickens. Then, at that point, the mom doesn't have to deal with that responsibility. The government handles that, but then it's a question of, well, wait a minute, do you really want the government growing your kid? If not, then it goes back to the mom.
Growing your kid? Okay, can we get back on track?
But this makes it really good. But this is on track. I mean, granted, this gets absurd. The abortion thing gets absurd because the kid is not even born. But my case more so is the kid is here. And in the same way, there's certain things that the mother has to give up in order to take care of the kid. Now,
the mother doesn't have to give that up.
I was ill growing up. Should my mom drop the things that she wants, her aspiration in life, and take care of her sick kid? Or should she go about her own affairs?
That's her choice, what she wants to do. What do you mean?
Is it really her choice? She has a kid.
What do you mean?
The kid is sick.
That's what she has to do.
I'm saying, just by virtue of having the kid, there's certain obligations and responsibilities associated with it.
To feed the child.
Yes. Nutritious.
What I decide to feed my child.
So if you decide to feed your child ho-hos.
There's some people down the street that feeding their babies ho-hos.
And you think those kids are going to turn out good?
No, but that's not my...
That's my point. That's
not your decision as government to go in and force the baby to take away the ho-hos and give them carrots.
But maybe it should be. Especially if you're going to come to me later. Wait. Especially if later you're going to come to me and say, why do we have all this crime? Why do we have all these people? Yes, it is. Low IQs and those type of things are related. Like, I guess my point is, why on earth? I mean, you're going to come to me later and be like, God, man, we're crime-ridden. Or, God, man, these people seem to be idiots.
I'm not coming to you at all.
You will if you get hit in the head by somebody who takes your wallet and you find out later that kid was fed on ho-hos that you've approved. I guess my point is, yes, it matters that those kids eat carrots or spinach or whatever kind of vitamin. It matters that those kids get the juicy milk.
Juicy milk. Come on. I'm clocking out of this conversation. Come on.
I don't know if I had that juicy milk growing up.
I don't know. In which case, we go downstairs and put your mom in jail. Where is Diane?
jail may be too strong. I agree with you. Jail may be too strong. And maybe the way to go about this is incentivize. It's maybe the way to go. Strongly incentivize. I don't want to put people in prison for not feeding their kids breast milk.
I Nuke Wales. Thank you for the super chat. We are going to go head on with what the fuck we actually came here to do. I don't even know how we got into this conversation.
Because Mrs. Thomas, because you kept saying Mrs. Thomas, and I was like, God, man, that feels like ownership to me. And we get into this conversation about ownership of bodies and how there's certain societal imprints that goes back like a generation that still is in play. History has no stopping point. There's just no point where it stops.
Okay, so all right, we have about 115 people here. If you're enjoying the shenanigans that have ensued on this channel, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. The thumbs up does encourage more people to join because it makes it more visible within YouTube.
Yes.
But this is the weekly patron appreciation, aka contributor appreciation, aka we love you show. Thank you for everything.
Yes, that's exactly what that is.
Of course, if you are not aware or if you have forgotten, this show is of course live. After the live show, it is going to be taken down and viewable only to patrons. So if you are a patron, please make sure that you log in and check out the entirety of this video. We do have a couple of quick updates before we get in.
Minutes?
Yeah, 21 minutes of
You feel real strong about giving those kids ho-hos, don't you?
I feel real strong about deciding what the fuck to do with my own body.
Fuck the kid.
That kid get formula if I decide he's getting formula.
You said ho-hos.
I'm not giving my kid ho-hos.
You said ho-hos. You said if those parents decide to
we
feed
are
those
not going
kids
back.
ho-hos.
We're not going back.
I'm just saying you got real strong on that point.
In the same vein of patron appreciation, the show is going to be put up on Patreon platform. So if you are a patron, make sure that you go in and check out the entirety of the video. One new announcement that we do have is that starting today, the patron appreciation / contributor appreciation will be segmented.
Yes.
So these videos, as you can see and as you know, have a tendency to cover many different topics because they are pulled from the patron content. Usually what happens is we just upload the whole 2-hour, 3-hour video and you just have to kind of get in where you fit in and see where your topic is.
And please give us your suggestions, by the way.
Yeah, because we didn't get any. We didn't get into this week.
You know,
let me finish what
I've said before.
Let me finish what I was saying.
I do a bunch of alien videos.
No, we're not. So,
punishing the audience.
So starting today, I'm going to go in and cut them up and put titles on them. So you will see ridiculous breastfeed argument between Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. And then you just click on that one and that's the one that you'll see.
I think that should be something for everybody.
And then we can put that up for everybody.
Because I think that's honestly, I mean, that's the crux of the conversation,
that's
right?
Fine.
The woman's body.
But what I'm saying is every single one of those will have their own individual video that will be uploaded. So it won't be up as quickly because of that. Like it might not go up until this afternoon, depending on how long. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Also, I want to send a shout out to the gentleman, or we want to send a shout out to the gentleman that sent some support through the mail. I'm not going to put their name out there because we didn't get permission to do that, and we're not sure. You will be getting something as just as a thank you in the mail. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not aware, you can send anything legal that you would like to send to Jamarl through the mail.
Anything in general.
In the post office box. Don't put weed in the mail.
Snitches get stitches.
Don't
you put weed in the mail?
You a lot. Oh, I thought you said I put weed in the mail. I was like, no.
Don't tell me, because I don't want to get implicated in a crime.
No, there's nothing.
But if you want to, blaze one if you got one and you want to send one in the mail, do you, boo?
I ain't got nothing
I'm just saying, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
I will blaze that and say thank you.
No, if some green stuff come in the mail and you do something and smoke it, you're just an idiot as the person who sent it in the mail.
Shout out to there's a few people, Jeff, and there's no way I'm getting everybody, but Jeff Kuntz has been sending me stuff from like viewer number 3. Like he's been doing this for years.
Excuse me.
And you know, I'm not the greatest at always responding to people sending me stuff. So, but that's just because I get a lot in regards to content and people think. But HB, Jeff Kuntz, Cheryl Sanchez, I think if I'm not mistaken, Cheryl is one who sent the book. She sent this awesome video with John Pilger on the rise of China. That is an amazing video. And I was sitting. That was the thing I was sitting there reading this morning. Or listening to this morning. Pilger is an amazing thing. And there was stuff in that video that I didn't know about.
So she sent that to you?
Yeah. I wanted to do that as one of the videos as a patron appreciation today, but I don't think we're going to have time.
We'll see. Especially not after the boob shenanigans.
Yeah.
So, last quick important update. If you have been under a rock for the last 48 hours and did not know, Jamal's sister channel The Black,
Black
Box,
Box
is now live.
It's live, but if you put that into YouTube search, it will not come up.
That's okay. You're gonna find it.
Yeah, you'll find it.
The video that was posted Saturday at 1 a.m. Jamal and I did together. It's titled "Special Announcement." No one watched it because it was a special announcement. You guys obviously don't care about special announcements for the channel.
Nobody cares about special announcements. I told you nobody cares
go
about special
find
announcements.
if you want to see the video. The easiest way to get to it, of course, it's for some reason it's not showing up when you. Oh, it's available now on the Aggressive Soapbox.
Yeah.
So the link in that video is going to take you to the Black Box
Yes.
YouTube page.
If you like it, please consider subscribing.
Yeah. Check it out. Subscribe. The Black Box is a new channel that is going to house any type of analytical shenanigans that come out of his brain that could go from Star Trek to comics,
Superman,
which the first one is Superman.
to
if you
UFO
haven't
content.
seen it, UFO content.
I know it's a weird mix,
Anything.
right? That's why I call it the Black Box.
It could be anything.
It could be anything. It's political musings within the context of like comic book universes, if that makes sense. Like, what is the reality that is taking place on the ground in these various environments that these guys created, these authors create? Like, what does it look like in real world terms? Not the propaganda that the artists put out. Like, for example, Star Trek.
No, we're not doing that here.
No, we're not doing it. I'm just making the point that the perspective of Star Trek is given through somebody who loves Star Trek. It would be like if somebody was in the military and they gave this thing about how awesome it was to be in the military. Like, and then you get into the real world terms of these guys are actually blowing shit up and they're killing people. You know what I mean? It's that dichotomy.
All of that kind of.
But real world stuff also.
Yeah.
Like the Black Box is not limited to comic book stuff.
Right.
I struggle over that because my thought was, is that gonna mix things up? Like if you're doing a UFO subject, that's legit. Like no bullshit in those
Like
subjects.
the one about the Navy.
Yeah, right. Like the one about the Navy. You're looking
week.
at real world terms of what this means. That's what Black Box is. It's not. It's the stuff that's fictional is clearly fictional, and the stuff that's not, I want to say it's clearly not. And it's looking for political ramifications for those things. So I like it.
Okay.
So far.
So check it out.
There's one video up, but two more going up that deals with stuff that I've had on this channel.
Yeah, and those are, for the most part, not going to be live, just as a FYI.
Yes.
So we can try to add some cool stuff and graphics and all that good stuff, but
yes.
Maybe occasionally live stuff. But let me get to Super Chats. If you are not aware, I have my phone here because I like to kind of read the comments so that we can use the screen for something else. Lane Wilson, thank you for the Super Chat. Wayne says, Kamala Harris makes kids go to school.
Truancy.
Also, your mom just said you weren't breastfed.
I wasn't breastfed.
Turned out to be fine. I think that's what's wrong with you.
I have kidney failure.
Ooh.
I had knee pain going from the time that I was like 5 years old to the time I was 17 years old, literally. Medically,
yeah, Mom, that wasn't a good.
Yeah, that's not a good. I'm not a good example for this.
Yeah.
But this is kind of exactly making my point. This is making my point. I had.
Okay, wait.
But going from the time I was a kid to the time
Donald
I was 17.
Smeed. Thank you for the super chat. Donald says, we are continuing on with this breast milk conversation. Okay. What if a woman has super milk in relation to other women? Where her milk will turn you into LeBron James with Neil deGrasse Tyson intelligence. Should she be forced to sell her secret sauce?
Yes.
Really?
You can have a better world.
What if you have... So then should we take the sperm from like the most successful men of the world and make you sell your sperm?
If it shows that the people will... But see, success is different. Like saying LeBron, in fact, even the LeBron James super milk is a little different. What we count as success is a little bit different than what individuals need to necessarily aspire for. What individuals want is specific to the individual. Once the person is here, then that person kind of make decisions based on what they have at their disposal. So it's a chicken and an egg thing. No, I don't necessarily think the person should be taken. But do I think from the standpoint of if we know that something makes people better versus worse, then maybe, I mean, because we're not talking about making somebody a superhuman being. Like, we're not talking about creating a Michael Jordan. We're just talking about not creating a Forrest Gump. Like, how do we ensure that the kid is healthiest, is less physically or mentally infirmed, with the knowledge that a physically infirmed kid or a kid that is not mentally altogether there hurts the larger society? It's the same argument for the abortion thing. And I know I said it an odd way. Forcing women to have a kid creates a society where those kids eventually grow up and terrorize that society because those moms didn't want to have that kid, and that kid grew up in a society that did not want them. Once those kids are born, the Republicans don't want to have anything to do with them. And the Democrats are feckless and utterly useless in ensuring that those kids have a decent living. So let's put this shit in context. When we're talking about making sure that those kids eat nutritious foods, it's because we want them to have the best nutrients possible for their bodies and minds to grow. We want them to have the best opportunities that they possibly have. And our society benefits from those kids being able to do that. So if a mom is saying, it's my body, and if I want to feed those kids ho-hos, then yeah, I have no issue with the government saying, it is your body, true, but that kid is a separate entity than you, and you decided to have that kid, and you need to take care of that kid with a certain regimen diet. And guess what? The government will get involved if you were mistreating that kid or weren't feeding that kid or having that kid to be malnourished. The government already gets involved for that.
Formula isn't malnourishment. But we're going to go ahead into the thing.
Formula is not malnourishment. That is true.
Can you pull up my article?
I told you I was being provocative with that argument.
I know. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on. All right. So
I think you're just disturbed how
many? What time is it? Can you pull up the YouTube?
No.
I need to get the timestamp from the YouTube video. So pull up our YouTube video, the one that we're doing right now.
Oh, right here.
Trudy says Jamarl down with Freedom Thomas. All right. So
it's 31-10.
All right, 31-10. All right, so Lord have mercy.
I'm holding an argument, man. I don't necessarily fully
so the first
agree with this.
Actual topic of today, 31 minutes into the live stream. Hopefully, we've given enough opportunity for anybody that's going to join. Yeah, so we're gonna move on, and in that same vein, with Down with Freedom Thomas over here, you fall right in line with
you guys are just trying to
Alabama legislators.
You guys are mistreating children, born children, no less.
I want the one that's the facts. All right, so in case you have missed it, Alabama just signed over. What are you doing?
Abortion law.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on with anti-abortion laws right now. I don't want to say abortion, but anti-abortion laws. Most significantly, and most recently, this week, Alabama just passed a law which has been the most severe so far to ban abortion at any stage.
I thought abortion was legal.
It is, which is why the states that are trying to pass these, none of them are in effect yet. They have either been contended or they will be contended. But I think that they're seeking to overturn Roe versus Wade,
That's exactly
which is what makes abortion legal. So far, Kentucky, Mississippi, Ohio, and Georgia have passed the bills, which they're calling a heartbeat law, which means that as early as we can perceive an infant's heartbeat,
fetal heartbeat, yeah.
Right, there's a ban on abortion. But Alabama goes one step further, takes the cake, and says there's no time frame. The outright outlaw of abortion, period. 6 weeks, nope. 4 weeks, nope. 2 weeks, nope. Sperm just went in, nope.
Republicans are trying to go to the Supreme Court because they know that Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, they have more Republicans. Meaning, it's unclear whether or not it would survive a Supreme Court challenge. Because that's essentially what they're doing. They're saying, we're going to be so provocative that you're going to have to intervene. Now, here's the catch. A federal government that's under a Donald Trump is not going to intervene in that. Meaning, there isn't going to be no challenge to this from the standpoint of the federal government challenging this. Like, think of segregation. Whereas the federal government says segregation is illegal in this country. And you have people in the various southern states saying, fuck the federal government, segregation now, segregation forever. And the federal government sitting in troops to ensure that segregation is illegal. You know what I mean? Like, that's the federal government getting involved, asserting itself in regards to the sovereignty over states. That's not going to take place under a Republican president. Meaning the abortion center that tries to be open saying it is our law, it is our right to have this procedure. It's not going to be protected by a Donald Trump administration under Mike Pence administration. Under a Sanders administration, Sanders would likely send in the National Guards to protect those places.
Now, there are, so far, Kansas is the only state that I know of, has signed abortion into their state legislation, that abortion is a constitutional right. Because they're hoping to give... I can't think of the word right now, but
coverage.
Right.
They're trying to cover
in case Roe versus Wade is overturned.
Because understand, federal law supersedes state law, but Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court decision, meaning technically it's not a law in the strictest sense of law. It's just that any law that a state passes that goes against it is going to be struck down because the Supreme Court has already said it's legal. Now, Republicans have heard that say, okay, well, we can go as close to the line as possible. We can get right here. Which at a certain point becomes nonsensical. You're technically banning abortion and ignoring the spirit of what these guys were saying. When this gets to the point, a federal law needs to be passed in order to make sure that this is a clear right of women to be able to do and get rid of this shenanigans about 8 months and all this other stuff. Kansas...
8 months.
It's 8 weeks, I'm sorry. Kansas is trying to say, well, look, when this fails, when this goes to pot, we want to ensure that the women in this country are, in our state at least, are protected. Like I said, there's no federal law going against or for abortion in this case. This is purely just law from the standpoint of the judicial branch. So these guys are trying to protect their state.
Yeah, this was done on Friday.
That's amazing that this happened in Kansas.
Yeah.
Because it's like, do you remember that thing, What's the Matter with Kansas? Where they had these extreme right-wingers taking over Kansas?
No.
Oh, I see. Kansas Supreme Court. This is not the legislature. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Kansas Supreme Court in its decision Friday morning ruling that having the option to get an abortion is a right in the state. I gotta be honest, this needs to be made into a law. The judicial decisions are too fickle.
So that means whatever law is put into place in Kansas, once it goes into the court system, right, this is going to say, no, constitutional right.
Yeah.
All right, so really quickly, while we're still on this topic, Joel...
Wait. No. That's not what I mean. It's not... The law in Kansas can be changed. The judicial branch is just interpreting the law as is, saying it's a constitutional right.
I know that. That's what I understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I understand. Joel Sass, along this topic. Joel, thank you for the super chat. Joel says, what's the capitalist advantage to limiting abortion? More low-wage workers in the future? Higher military conscription?
It's not capitalist.
Jailing of women?
It's ideological.
Yeah.
It's ideological. It's like, it's like there's a dovetail between capitalists getting their hands on the resources of Venezuela and capitalists having geopolitical influence. John Bolton probably doesn't all that much care about the capitalist aspect. I tell you, he does care about the other aspect of this notion of control, like this geopolitical control that the United States should be able to run roughshod over the rest of the world.
In that same vein, with you saying that it is ideology, something that I found on Facebook the other day, in 2016, can you pull the Poland one? In 2016, in Poland, women, thousands of women, in October,
million. If I'm not mistaken, it was 6 million women, I thought. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Why did I say 6 was in my head? Okay, 60
where
cities.
You got that from.
Okay.
But over 60 cities, thousands of women went on strike. They called it Black Monday. Yeah. And they didn't show up to work to protest the strict abortion laws that were being proposed. And I say this, and I bring this up in relation to your ideology statement, because Catholicism in Poland, and one of the groups was protesting at a government building on that day, and they were holding up signs that says, "We want doctors, not missionaries." Yeah.
Somebody else said we can get it. How did they say it? Abortion is illegal, or abortion can be changed unlike... Oh, I know what it is. Government can be changed unlike abortion laws.
Can be terminated.
Unlike pregnancy. Right. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Too.
Yeah, and there are pictures that are amazing. All these women are in black, flooding the streets. Yeah. Like, it's an odd thing. They were looking at it from above, and you have this image of all of these women.
Yeah, they dressed in black.
Wearing like umbrellas and everything else. Now, I've been to Poland, and meeting...
Not Warsaw.
You were in Czech. You never been to Poland?
Oh, I didn't cross over.
You didn't cross over the line.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. I mean, I was right up
the street.
Hate to
bring up the technicality.
I was right up the street.
You were like 10 minutes away. Like, literally like 10 minutes away. Like, when you're crossing from Czech Republic into Poland, it's like nothing. Like, it's like walking from Ashland to Richmond or something. Like, it's the border's not even, barely even there. But no, the women in Poland, they look everywhere else. And, this notion, it's odd having a European city this way. Because, many of the European cities, these women are... I don't want to...
Kind of liberated.
Liberated is the right word for it. I was going to use a word that people were getting angry at, but I didn't mean any negative connotation to it. But my point is, I'm shocked that this is the way this is.
Well, this is a very, very religious country. Yeah. And that's what they were saying, is that doctors often refuse to give abortions because of religious reasons religious beliefs. The doctors will say that they'll refuse to give abortions.
Well, in this case, the women are asserting themselves.
Yeah. And this, I think, is a lot better than the Alyssa Milano no sex strike.
What's the difference?
This is actually affecting. I mean, government had to be shut down. When you think about half of your workforce going out for the day, that's affecting everybody.
And by the way, and like you said, they shut down government,
right.
All sorts of buildings, like all sorts of government institutions were shut down because of what these women did.
Right.
That's a hell of a lot better than,
you're not getting any.
You're not getting any tonight, buddy. Because this affects everybody. This is a cascading thing. Like you said, well, what if somebody is gay? What if somebody is this? Well, in this case, whether you're gay, straight, bi, whatever, if you're not able to get on the bus because the bus is shut down, if you're not able to get your X or your Y or get
postal
government
service
shut down, all that stuff. So, God bless them.
Yeah.
God bless them.
So, there's going to be a lot of contention, a lot of challenging against all of these state bills that are being passed.
Oh yeah.
So keep an eye out for that.
Because the United States is not Poland. I mean, like, we are. This is not an overly religious nation, with the exception of, not overtly religious, let's say it that way, with the exception of certain areas within the country. Like, so they're doing this for ideological reasons, that you may have some people who are religious who are able to get in power and so forth, but the country hates this.
I think they said that statistically most people in Alabama were against these strict laws. Another key point to note in the Alabama bill is that not only does it outlaw abortion at any stage in the pregnancy, it also takes out the stipulation on abortion allowance for incest and rape. A lot of the other stricter laws allow for abortion at a later time in the pregnancy based on, rape or
incest.
Yeah, rape or incest, mostly for rape. But Alabama says no. Still, the only leniency they give is for extreme medical emergencies. Otherwise, Alabama says no abortions, period. So,
all right. So the next one.
I thought we were doing Kamala.
Kamala Harris, yeah. All right. So let me pull up hers.
That's been the.
Did you send me that one?
Yeah.
What? Do you want to tell people?
What? Let me do my spiel?
Yeah, go for it.
So if you are just joining us, thank you. It looks like we have about 170 people. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button because it shows everybody else on YouTube that we're having a good time and they can come and join us. If you're not aware, this is Patron Appreciation, aka Contributor Appreciation. It is the once weekly, usually, show to give thanks for everybody who supports the channel. If you are a patron, don't forget to log into Patreon and give us your topic suggestions. This week we didn't get any official suggestions. We did get someone asking about the black box, but we did not get anything official. Jamal fortunately got some good stuff through his email because you guys send him stuff all the time. But a lot of this is stuff that I found today because we didn't get any good topics. So don't forget, because whatever you send us, that is what we pull from to do the weekly Patron Appreciation show. And then of course, as always, after today's live showing, it will be taken down and put in segments on Patreon platform for patrons only to view. If you are contributing or supporting the channel outside of Patreon through Super Chat or PayPal or even via mail, Streamlabs, send us an email or however you are contributing. Let us know that you would like to get these exclusive content, and we will send you a link to be part of the private Facebook group, because we are now putting this information on a Facebook page for people who are not only contributing through Patreon. So I hope I covered that right. Okay, so share, like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. If you are a patron, make sure that you're logging in and checking out the content. If you did not hear earlier, the update for this week is that patron will now get segmented videos. Usually what we do is we take this whole video, which is usually like 2 or 3 hours long, and we just drop it into Patreon. But I am going to now splice those videos up and put topic headers on them so that you will be able to see exactly what topic that you want. You won't have to watch the whole 3-hour thing. Of course, if you want to, by all means, but they will be separate videos, which gives it a little easier for people to see topics. Check out the Black Box, new sister channel, and I think those are all of our updates. Yeah.
All right, so I want to get into the crime bill. Now, Joe Biden, if you remember,
Creepy Joe,
but if you remember, Hillary Clinton got pilloried for that crime bill during the primaries last time because she made this super credit comment and people were calling her racist. Joe Biden was also pushing that crime bill. That crime bill was racist, and the stuff that he was saying about it was racist. And I'm less likely one of those people to be like, oh man, that's racist. I tend to say it very few times. I mean, there's very few people who I've really attributed to. This was one of those cases. Joe Biden knew that crime bill was racist. He knew that it was going to have consequences that was going to be more so for African Americans as opposed to whites. Part of the bill that Joe Biden was backing full bore made a difference between drugs that African Americans use versus whites use. One was rich and poor. It was a class distinction in regards to like cocaine and crack between the two. Same product, all intents and purposes, but cocaine, less of a sentence. Crack, more of a sentence. Crack was more so used by
I was about to say, white people use cocaine.
Yes.
Black people use crack.
Right.
Or minorities use crack and
right.
Caucasians
Well, it's cheaper. That's all. It's just it's a class distinction in the way that it's used. Biden was told this. Biden knew this. Biden still pushed for this bill, knowing that this aspect was in it, and knowing it was going to create a distinct shift. Like African Americans, 4 times more likely to get a longer sentence, or the sentences being longer as African Americans, or even getting incarcerated at a higher rate, even for the exact same thing.
Now, Bill Clinton even came out and said to the NAACP, he admitted that this was trash.
Yes.
He said, I signed a bill that made the problem worse, and I want to admit it. This was Clinton in 2015 talking to the NAACP. He said, in that bill, there were longer sentences, and most of these people are in prison under state law, but the federal law set a trend, he told the NAACP in 2015, and that was overdone. We were wrong about that. That percentage of it, we were wrong about.
I did a video going back showing Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders on this issue of the crime bill. And in that, I kind of made this point that it was known back then when Joe Biden was pushing this bill, it was understood that there was going to be racial disparities that were going to be a consequence of this bill. Don't believe me, believe Thomas Frank. Mm-hmm. Thomas Frank nails this dead on, saying that people are misunderstanding what took place from Bill Clinton's crime bill. Saying Bill Clinton's crime bill destroy lives, there's no point in denying. It's saying that there was a commission that was set up before Bill Clinton signed that bill. So right here, let's see. But what is most shocking in our current journal historical understanding of the Clinton's years is the idea that mass imprisonment of people of color was an unintended consequence of the 1994 crime bill. The quote, New York Daily News paraphrase of Hillary Clinton, this is flatly, glaringly false, as the final ugly chapter of the crime bill story confirms. Back in the early 1990s, and although they were chemically almost identical, crack and powder cocaine were regarded very differently by the law. The drug identified with black users, crack, was treated as though it were 100 times as villainous as the same amount of cocaine, a drug popular with affluent professionals. This now notorious 100-to-1 sentencing disparity, as the New York Times put it, had been enacted back in 1996, and the 1990 crime law instructed the U.S. Sentencing Commission to study the subject and adjust federal sentencing guidelines as it saw fit. Understand, look at this, and give us feedback. The Sentencing Commission duly recommended that the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity be abolished, largely because, as their lengthy report on the subject put it, the 100-to-1 crack to cocaine powder quantity ratio is a primary cause of the growing disparity in sentences for blacks and white federal defendants. By the time the report was released, however, Republicans had gained control of Congress and passed the bill explicitly overturning the decision of the commission. Bernie Sanders, for record, voted against the bill. Thank you for putting that in. The bill then went to President Clinton for approval shortly before it came to his desk. He gave an inspiring speech deploring mass incarceration of black Americans. Blacks are right to think that something is terribly wrong, he said on that occasion, when there are more African American men in our correction system than our colleges, when almost 1 in 3 African American men in their 20s are either in jail, on parole, or otherwise under the supervision of the criminal system. Nearly 1 in 3. Bill Clinton says this. He looks at people, black people in the face, and he says this, and they're like, yes, Bill Clinton, great. 2 weeks after that speech, Clinton blandly affixed his signature to the bill, retaining the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity, a disparity that has brought about the lopsided incarceration of black people. Clinton could have vetoed it. Clinton didn't. He signed it. And Joe Biden pushed for it. And Joe Biden is out there saying, look, you guys are misrepresenting this bill, and it wasn't really this bill that caused it. Unfortunately, Bill Clinton disagrees with you, sir. And he was the president at the time that wrote it.
Do you have this?
Yeah.
So, on Tuesday, Joe Biden was on NBC, and he says, folks, this is him defending it. This week, if you'll scroll down just a little bit. Yep. He says, folks, let's get something straight. 92 out of every 100 prisoners who end up behind bars are in a state prison, not a federal prison. This idea that the crime bill generated mass incarceration did not generate mass incarceration. Now, Kamala Harris, she got a lot of issues, but to her credit, she did respond, and she said, I have a great deal of respect for Vice President Joe Biden, but I disagree. The former California Attorney General said, that crime bill, that 1994 crime bill, it did contribute to mass incarceration in this country.
And she said, well, and she explains why.
No, that's not her. That's the thing.
Well, she doesn't explain. Well, no, she does explain. I swear to God. I mean, her point is, Kamala Harris makes the point that the states themselves starts taking the message from the federal government, meaning they start taking cues from the way the federal government is engaging on this, and the federal government starts giving money for states to build prisons. I swear to God, she talks about this. Yeah. Right here. No, seriously, the bill set aside $8.7 billion over 6 years to reward states with funds to build more prisons if they force violent crime offenders to serve at least 85% of their sentences. Meaning, not only was that 1 to 100 disparity built into the crime bill, the federal government, Joe Biden's bill, assisted in ensuring that those people stayed in prison longer with those longer sentences. Joe Biden trying to pull himself away from the blame is utter nonsense. Which is something that Bill Clinton, who signed it into law, has acknowledged repeatedly. I signed a bill that made the problem worse, and I want to admit it, Clinton said in 2015. There were also 3 strikes. Again, a thing that handed out life sentences to third offenders if they previously had 2 strikes were related to violence or drug trafficking. Longer sentences, and expanded the death penalty to include mind-blowingly 60 additional crimes, something Clinton pointed out as well. In that bill, there were
That's the one I read.
Good.
No, this is the one I read earlier. Clinton's quote. This was him coming out actually saying that the bill was messed up. I think, too, that Biden is doing like a technicality, because in his quote last week, he said it did not generate mass incarceration. No, but it contributed to it. It
contributed.
Technically, it did not, but it did contribute.
It contributed from the standpoint of the state's perspective of things, but it also contributed from the standpoint of, and also in regards to the tenor, like the offenders themselves. Where is it?
Yeah, Kamala Harris got some shit with her, but
she's right.
I think she was on the right side of this one.
Wait a minute, what am I missing? 92 ended up being in bars in state prison. Right.
We read all that. I kind of jumped around because I was reading it from my phone before you pulled up the article.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just reading because I'm missing. I ran into my brain for some reason just
your brain freeze, a brain infarct.
Well, it's the crime bill that did contribute to mass incarceration in this country. Well, yeah, it's not mine. Generate, circumventing, arguing. It did initially contribute. Harris was kind enough to call out. I'm trying to find out explicitly what it was.
What was?
Well, because it contributed from the standpoint of the tenor of states. Like states started taking kind of this hint from the federal government.
Law, yeah.
Also, money was given out to ensure that these guys spend longer time in prison. Oh, I know what it was. The 1 to 100 ratio between crack and cocaine. They signed that knowing that was in place. All right. I was drawing a blank on something. I was like, I know I just said that, even though I'm drawing a blank on it. I guess that's problematic in a few counts. Bill Clinton knew that was a racial disparity built into that bill.
Right.
He knew and could have gotten rid of it. He didn't get rid of it for political reasons. The states themselves starts taking the cue from the federal government. Part of that cue was, we'll give you money if you let these guys spend 85% of the time. And that's 85% of the time already in a system that had a 1 to 100 disparity in regards to the time frames. Like, this gets dicey already. Biden saying that this bill wasn't racist is nonsense. Clinton even comes out saying, yes, we have problems with this bill. So Biden trying to...
4 years ago, Clinton said it. So for Biden to come out last week to say, yeah, that wasn't related.
It's kind of problematic. It's kind of problematic.
It's like, it was.
Now, let's be clear. Kamala Harris is hitting Joe Biden on this because Kamala Harris is running in a contest with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris was also the person who was giggly about moms who were homeless going to jail for not getting their kids to go to school. She was like, those parents. She was like, that mom was homeless and she had multiple kids. And I was threatening her with jail time. And it's like, why are you giggling over this? Why is this funny at all? You're talking about putting people in prison. It's like the mom's issue here is not that the kids aren't going to school. It's that she is homeless with children. You know what I mean? Like the problem here is not the mom. If the mom was in a better situation, it's possible that the kids would go to school, not the other way around. And she's like, well, it's the mom's responsibility to make sure those kids go to school, even though she's homeless. The mom is having trouble even keeping herself in the house.
Joel Sass, thank you for the super chat. Joel wants to know, does the 94 crime bill correspond to private prisons?
That's a good question. I mean, you would think that there would be more prisons to kind of accommodate the surge.
Not sure on that one. We'll have to check that out, Joel.
That's a good question, Joel. I mean, I would imagine capitalists look at it as if a buck is to be made, there's a buck to be made.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sanders was entirely against this.
Good old Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders was against this. When I did that video before, I kind of made this point that listen to him. He's pissed off over this.
How old is this video?
This video is that I did, or that Sanders?
That you did.
Maybe a year or two ago. I was on it, man. On it.
Hit the video, the volume. Can I hear?
I rise in strong opposition to this so-called crime prevention bill. Mr. Speaker, let us be honest. This is not a crime prevention bill. This is a punishment bill, a retribution bill, a vengeance bill. All over the industrialized world now, countries are saying, let us put an end to state murder. Let us stop capital punishment. But here what we're talking about is more and more capital punishment. What we're discussing now is an issue where some of our friends are saying we're not getting tough enough on the criminals. But my friends, we have the highest percentage of people in America in jail per capita of any industrialized nation on earth. We've beaten South Africa. We've beaten the Soviet Union. What do we have to do? Put half the country behind bars? Mr.
Just so we're clear, Sanders is right. This was back in 1994. Like,
I was 10.
Honestly, man, you could go back in time and just, just throw a dollar on some kind of map, or that sounds weird. Throw a penny on a time scale, and I just mean if you flank time out and you have pennies all the way out, or a dart, yeah. And you just get a random video that Sanders did during that time when he was for Congress, and more often than not, he'd be right. This video is prescient,
yeah.
And these two get to kind of go at it. Let's let him finish.
Mr. Speaker, instead of talking about punishment and vengeance, let us have the courage to talk about the real issue. How do we get to the root causes of crime? How do we stop crime? And Mr. Speaker, I've got a problem. I've got a problem with a president and a Congress which allows 5 million children to go hungry, 2 million people to sleep out on the streets, cities to become breeding grounds for drugs and violence. And they say, we're getting tough on crime. If you want to get tough on crime, let's deal with the causes of crime.
Right there. Yes. Yes. Like, I hear that and I'm like, yes. Crime doesn't come out of a petri dish. Like, it's not like magic. Like, it's like you turn around and, oh God, look at all of that crime. It just happened. We were just standing here and crime just came out of the sewer. It doesn't, no.
It's based on people's circumstances.
When those kids are eating ho-hos all day, those kids have outcomes. I'm just saying, when those kids are eating ho-hos and bad stuff and it's not getting fed that juicy milk, then those kids have bad outcomes sometimes. And those kids end up in our prisons. I'm saying we need to ensure, like he was saying, that the causes of crime are dealt with. And scientifically, you can study it from a sociological standpoint. You can study the drivers of crime, and you can take a perspective in society of saying, you know what, let's cut out the drivers. And whatever crime we have left, we deal with it from there. But this notion that having, 25% of the prison population in your prison when you only make up 5% of the world is a little weird. You realize we have more people in our prisons than China, and they have 3 times our population. We call that a repressive totalitarian regime. And we have more people in our prisons. Put this shit in context. Just saying.
I think we need to go check Streamlabs. I think that's the second one I've heard pop up.
All right. But I'm just saying, Sanders, man, God, he's on point. And let's see, I think I even have Biden arguing this here. In fact, I think I even had a whole video of Sanders arguing this. I guess my point is, but you get his point. He's right. How's he wrong? How's he wrong? What are the drivers of crime, and can we deal with the drivers of crime? as opposed to the after effect. Like I used to say,
be proactive, not reactive.
I used to have an argument that said, the source, you can't always fix a problem at its endpoint. Like problems, like the termination point of a problem, the exit point of something is not necessarily the point of fixing it. That's the point where you have to deal with the consequences of it. It's kind of like a chess
reactionary.
game. You're reactionary at that point. It's like playing chess, and something happens, and you're like, oh fuck, that's a problem. I need to fix that. But if you're really analyzing the game and you look back at it, you're like, all right, this problem started 8 moves ago. By the time it gets to the expression, that's a difficult situation. There are no right answers. That, like, oftentimes in our politics, we're stuck in a situation of, all right, let's find good solutions for horrible problems. And nobody says, all right, while we're doing this, and I agree that we need to do something to mitigate the worst effects of this, can we go back to why this might have started? No, that's not what we're allowed to have a conversation about. The conversation is purely endpoint. Do we put him in prison, and for how long?
Yeah.
That's the only point. Now, the Republicans in this case will say, but they're violent criminals breaking our laws.
Now,
By the way, that will be the attack on him.
Okay, so
he's being soft and crying, man.
Who?
That's what the attack on Sanders.
No. I'm gonna tell you what the attack on Sanders is. What 2 people have already said, including this super chat, the Streamlabs was already saying. He signed that bill.
Who, Sanders?
Yeah.
Go ahead, read the super chat.
Kills for a Living says he was against it, yet signed the bill. He's still against reparations. He's not against reparations. Can't wait till
Wait. He's not against reparations.
Right, that's what you said.
He's against reparations in the way they do. What does that mean? What does reparations mean? Explain to me.
We've done the videos on reparations.
Explain to me. Like, I understand people hit him for this.
I'm with you on that.
I know people hit him for this. But you can't even tell me what that means. I'm just saying, if you can't explain to me what reparations means, how can you say he's against it? He's against what they're asking him about, which is, should American descendants of slaves get what? Are you saying a check in the bank? Are you saying a check each week, kind of like Social Security? How do you determine who are the descendants of slaves?
Right, he doesn't believe that it should just be a check handed out, and he wants to know what reparations mean.
And by the way,
we've done a couple videos on that.
The divisiveness that it creates in the society itself. I'm not arguing against reparations. I agree with reparations. My issue is, what is going to be the wider... I often, man, for fuck's sake, you often hear me making this argument for what is the real result in the wider world, meaning what are the consequences? Something may be good and have horrible consequences in the wider world, in which case it makes me question whether or not it should be done, whether it's good or bad. Reparations is one of those things. I agree with it, but it's like...
We're not even talking about you, talking about Bernie.
I know, but the chaos that would create... He's talking about something that will be beneficial to the bottom section of the society. A large portion of those people are African Americans.
Right. If you look at the town hall that Bernie Sanders did, when someone asked him specifically about reparations, his answer says it all. We're not going to play that clip. You've done, I think, 2 or 3 videos on that.
I just disagree with the hitting him on the reparations issue. No other candidate will ever get you any closer to the upliftment of a bottom section of society, which in large part affects you.
Kills for a Living go on to say he's against reparations. He can't wait until Sheepdog gets cheated again and supports the corporate candidate again.
I gotta be honest, that would hurt.
He's talking about Bernie Sanders.
That would hurt.
His other Streamlabs, this is again from Kills for a Living. He wants to know, can he send you a mail order bride? And would Miss Thomas have an issue with that? First of all, I don't know who Miss Thomas is, but Mrs. Thomas, yeah, that's not going to fly. But I think your biggest problem is, I don't think you can send a mail order bride to a P.O. box.
Can you do that? Can you send mail order brides? I mean, they do have those.
I don't know.
They do have those, but I don't know that I don't think it can be a P.O. box. I agree with you on that one. The problem here is the P.O. box.
Because I'm the one that checked. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm the one that checked the P.O. box
more often than that. You have to hit me in advance. So none of the candidates are going to attack each other.
Wait, he got hit you in advance. This is from another day.
The Democrats. Oh, well, here's the thing. They aren't going to attack each other. Like the way Kamala Harris hit Biden. She'd have hit him on that because Biden said something that was absurd. Biden has been saying, I don't even know if Biden wants to win. Like, Biden has been running this.
So what is he doing?
I guess what I mean is, I've been watching Biden town halls and stuff like that. He looks like he's just on an automatic. Like, honestly.
Somebody said, Joe, you got to run. And he was like, really, man?
Maybe. I think he wants to be president. Don't misunderstand me. But I don't, right. I think
25 people?
It's an odd Clinton thing when we're not in this era. Like when Clinton ran and she says, my turn, Clinton internalized that and everybody else internalized it. Like, meaning the mainstream Democratic Party internalized it's her turn. She's the person that's going to run and be our standard bearer. And there were even media people who asked Bernie Sanders, like, don't you think it's not a good thing for you to be running against the first female candidate? And he's like, don't you think it's not a good thing for be running against the first Jewish candidate? Because he was, by the way. Like, so it's this weird, like, why were you asking him that? Like, that's such an odd question. Yeah, he can run against whoever he wants to run against if she's a woman.
Oh, this is the first woman running for presidency. Nobody else should run.
Nobody else should run. It's nonsense.
Just let her in. Just let her in.
The main, and that's even worse, by the way.
She's got a vagina. Let her have it.
No. What I mean, like, sometimes, Maurice Ashley, chess player. Every time I've seen Maurice Ashley, he's gotten his ass kicked. Maurice Ashley. He's a black chess player. He was the first black GM, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't want to say they gave it to him. I don't want to say that. But I couldn't find games where he won. He kept getting his ass kicked. Now,
well, clearly something happened if he got to be a grandmaster.
He got the grandmaster. But my point is, if you get it, you need to get it.
Earn it.
Like if I win, I want to win with this, like, it's like at the last minute where you're putting the knife in a person's chest. I want it to be where it was a clear, definitive thing that this person was better, definitively better. Not everybody bow down and get out the ring and give it to the person. Because guess what? When she goes against the Republican, he's not going to bow down and get out the ring. He's going to go for her heart. I want the strongest person going up against that horse. Everybody bowing out for the Clinton thing was just odd. It was just utterly bizarre.
Bob Ramirez says, wash your hands. Sanders is finished already.
I don't think so. I would say this, though. I haven't been hearing as much news, which concerns me. Like, Biden has been getting a lot of buzz. And so has Warren. Warren is fucking herself by not going to Fox News. It makes her look weak.
Yeah, that's a lot. I've seen that a couple of places, too. Bill Maher even came out and said Elizabeth Warren was screwing herself.
She looks weak.
She's not going to
She looks extremely weak. That's weak. And I got to be honest, that's not where you want to be. There's no, I'm not going to go on Fox News. Because whatever excuse you give, the only thing people hear is, she's not going, why is she going on Fox News? And people are going to weigh the excuse, like, does the excuse make sense? And it's going to be like, maybe, I mean, yeah, and then they're going to say, well, what's the real reason?
Now,
weak.
Tulsi Gabbard, on the other hand, did come out earlier this week and say,
I'll
be on there. I will go.
That's exactly how it was.
Fox News. I know Elizabeth Warren said that, but I'll be in there. They call me, I'm on. And because I'm looking at the thing like, so when is she going? Nobody invited her, but she said I'll be there. That
was so awesome. I love that. That's exactly what she did. Right here. Pick me, dog. I'm in this. She doesn't want it. I'll take it. Yeah, she was on it. That's exactly what. Because I was like, when is she gonna? Is she invited? Oh, she's not invited. She's just saying, I'm there.
Because
I'm there if you want me. Pick me, dog.
We both donated because we wanted her to get on the debate stage, and so as such, we get inundated with emails. In her last email, she said, "I will go on Fox News," and I'm like, "Sweet, when's she gonna be on there?"
Well, the funny part is, she's always on Fox News. She has like 2 or 3 videos. Yeah, she's always on Fox News.
Yeah.
Like, she was in this back and forth with Brett Baer. She was in another one with another woman on Fox News. She gets in fights.
She is not afraid.
Not afraid in the least. And again, that gives me more respect. Like, have you noticed when those guys do you remember, it's not Athens, it's the one that Brett, what's his name, was in. He was playing, what is that movie? It's a love story, Greece, Olympia, the guy who, he was a warrior. He was the greatest warrior.
What, Gladiator?
Yeah, Gladiator, but it's not Gladiator. It's in Athens. It's Greek. It's not Spanish. It's not Roman. Come on, you know what this is. I swear to God, you know what this is. Brad Pitt played an amazing warrior. My audience knows what this is. I swear to God, they do.
Okay, while you find that, Balthazar said Elizabeth Warren T has expired. Get it? Warren.
I get it.
She's only progressive when it doesn't matter. That's what Balthazar said.
God, man, what is the name of that movie that's bugging the hell out of me?
Nobody's saying it. Achilles?
Trojan, that's it.
Troy.
That's it.
Troy.
Achilles. Thank you, fucking audience, man. I love it. So, so Troy was in the movie. And he was the greatest warrior, the greatest fucking warrior ever.
And he got shot in his Achilles tendon.
He did, but in the beginning of that movie, he's having sex with this woman, and they wake him up for a fight, and he's like, oh, all right, and there's like women in his bed and everything. He gets up, he's a warrior, he's a man, it's Brad Pitt, and he comes out, and he gets on his horse and he rides away, and this largest man on the planet is standing over there. They're about to have combat, and the guy, he says, bring me your best warrior. This guy comes out, and he's like beating his chest. and Achilles goes running towards the guy. The guy throws a spear. He gets up. He's like stabs him in the neck and just turns around. Now the guy falls, and he goes into his audience and says, "Is there anybody else? Who else is there?" Like he's flipping out, and then he turns and walks away. They win because nobody would challenge him. I guess my point is this: there's something to be said about being able to take the hit from the best person that they get. And Fox News is what they got, and to be able to go into that pit and deal with that. Sanders did. And Sanders is still like, "Is there anybody else? Who else is there? Who wants to take on a socialist?" They gave their best. Now they couldn't be craven.
You should have gone with what I said and used the Gladiator reference.
No.
Where he was like, "Is this not why you're here?"
Because this is a war. I mean, this is not, gladiator combat. These guys are in war.
It was combat.
Fox News, in this particular situation, is the standard bearer for Republican media. And he goes on there and shames them because they can't hit him. I can't lay a glove on him.
Triana B. Fine.
I gotta be honest, CNN did a worse town hall. CNN was worse.
Excuse me. Triana B. Fine says, thank you for the super chat. She says, do you find it strange that Trump hasn't had a Twitter storm against Tulsi? She called him Saudi's biatch.
I don't think, well, two things. I don't think he wants to have the Twitter storm. One, because that's not an argument we're going to get into. Like, I don't know if Trump knows the stuff. I think Trump just has a somewhat of a childish understanding of it. And they give him policy. Like, I honestly, I don't think he's running president like people think. Like, I don't think, like, this is, he's running this like a business of sorts. Like there are objectives that he wants to be accomplished. All right, this person on Venezuela, all right, Pompeo, you're going to get Venezuela. Bolton, you're going to get Iran. And, I'm going to be okay with the strategy. He has to approve it. He has to say yes or no. But ultimately, he just lets them run the show on this stuff. He eats his Big Macs. They come to him, and they fuck up. And he's like, what do you mean you haven't been able to topple it? And he gets mad. He talks to the Washington Post. He's like, sometimes I have to rein these guys in. John Bolton is trying to get me into a war, et cetera, et cetera. John Bolton is trying to get him into a war.
He says, but does Trump not consider Tulsi a threat?
Well, that's what I mean. There's 2 points. It's one point is, it's not a conversation you want to have. That's the first point. And the second point is, I don't think he considers her a threat. I think both of those, run. Like the thing with Elizabeth Warren, if you think about it, he doesn't really hit any of the other candidates, with the exception of Biden. I don't know if he's hit Warren. He hit Warren in the past. But the thing is, anybody that he goes back and forth with increases the profile of the person he's going back and forth with. You be very clear on who you want to do that with. Joe Biden, yes, because Joe Biden was vice president. They're equals. Bernie Sanders, yes, because Bernie Sanders was running in the presidential election, running in this one, and clearly he's somewhat of an equal. Elizabeth Warren, maybe, just because people know her. But I gotta be honest, she's weak as far as I could say. What?
Can I nerd out for a second? Because I'm your wife. This reminds me of in Star Trek when the Borg came about and they boarded the Borg ship. And they were standing there and the Borg were walking around and they were like, they're not even paying attention to us. And I'm thinking like,
they don't care.
They don't even consider you to be a threat. Yeah. They're not even acknowledging your existence because you mean so little to them. That's what this makes me think.
I'll give you another one. Do you remember it's in Covenant? I think it was called Covenant. It's the new Alien movie. The new Aliens now, but there's something different now. It was the one with the they seeded Earth, and then the people came in their ship in order to go. I can't think of the exact name of the film, but Covenant was the secondary, like the subtitle of it. But essentially,
the movie.
But the movie, I don't think it was named Covenant.
No, that's beside the point.
Oh, okay.
What point are you getting to talk
There's
about?
a part in it where the company goes to this other world because the person who owns that company wants to meet the founders, the people who created them. Mm-hmm. And one of the founders is still alive, gets out of the tomb. Am I thinking?
And tries to kill them. You're talking about the Prometheus movie.
Prometheus, that's it, right. He kills the other people. He was leaving the guy, and the guy was like, "How dare you!" The guy was pissed off because this guy's a big shit on Earth, but this guy doesn't even acknowledge the fact that the man is even in existence.
Just,
you're so none of a threat to me that I am just going to leave. Like, that's where it is. I don't think, but again, it's the secondary point of Donald Trump knows Tulsi because she was one of the few people who would meet with him on foreign policy issues when he first took office. I don't think, look, he's not going to increase the profile of anybody until the debates. And after the debates where stuff starts to flow out, I got to be honest, I know people doubt me on this. I do not think Joe Biden is as much of a threat as I think people are making him out to be. I could be wrong on this. I could be completely wrong. Nate Silver is like, Joe Biden is a strong point. Joe Biden's strong suit is that people think they know Joe Biden.
Creepy Joe.
I
know him.
But they think of him as a gaffe machine, a lovable guy. The reason Joe Biden was like, I'll get to my policy later, is because he knows policy doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. To the people who are going to vote for him, it doesn't matter one iota. Those are the Hillary voters. The people who are like, it's Hillary's turn. It's her turn. The entire time, Democrats, we need a young man. We need a young man like Joe Biden to get in there and get this stuff straight. I was watching his speeches, unfortunately, because the person who was beside me yesterday had the thing on. He was like, yeah. And at this point, I'm getting annoyed by this guy saying, yeah. I tried. But I tried to do it in certain typical ways.
You couldn't hold it in if you wanted to.
What I tried to do was, I turned on the same thing he was watching, and I was like,
you want to be like, hey man.
No, I just said, God, this guy's lying. Oh God, he's miserable.
You tried to bait him.
I wanted to bait him. I wanted him to.
You baited him. You wanted him to engage you. That's sad.
He wouldn't take the bait. I was like, and they said something about Obama, and I was like, he wasn't. I was like, that guy was a failure. I was trying. Oh man, I was doing my best. He wouldn't say anything to me. But I didn't want to just kind of be like, what do you think about him? You really think he's?
That's too. That's
I didn't want to go direct. I didn't want to go there. That's too direct.
Right. Bob Ramirez says, not enough explosions, caped spandex, and giant robots to get you through the expanse. First story arc isn't even over before a third of this through. We
have to watch The Expanse.
I didn't like The Expanse. We
saw the first season.
You fell asleep.
I don't think I fell asleep. I fell asleep on some of them, but I think it's because we were binge watching it. He falls
asleep on a lot of stuff because he doesn't sleep for like 2 days.
I don't sleep well. I'm an insomniac. It's not the explosions, Bob. In fact, I do you one better. I am the one who came on here and said the problem with Discovery is that it wasn't Star Trek enough, and that there were all these fights and kicks and punches and shit blowing up, and I'm like, that's not Star Trek. Like, that's not the heart of Star Trek. They've taken something and put a Star Trek name on it, even though it's, S. They've turned a war immediately. Discovery took 6 seasons to get to a point of a war, and you fully understood why it got there. It wasn't just this random shit that just happened, if that makes sense. No, not
Discovery.
I'm sorry, Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
There were episodes of Star Trek that were the most minor things in the world, like the most insignificant things in the world that happens. Like I was making this point about Data playing chess or playing this game, and how Data, thought there was something wrong with him as a robot, and he gets into this identity issue because in his head, I should be able to do X, and I can't do X, so there's clearly something wrong with me. They turned that into an entire episode of Star Trek. Like, it's the most minor thing in the world.
Star Trek, the original Star Trek. Okay, so because I am your wife, I have seen a lot of Star Trek. Sometimes when I didn't want to, I've seen a lot of Star Trek. Star Trek was more thought-provoking.
It was more thought-provoking.
And they,
don't get me wrong,
addressed issues, like real-world issues. You know what I mean? It wasn't about that.
Or just human issues. Just things of a person. Like the android thing, his identity thing, Worf, dealing with the fact that he's a Klingon but raised by human parents. Think of the situation of a black child raised by white parents. Or vice versa. Like this notion of what does it mean to be who I am. More so of a black child, because this is the country is predominantly white, and because it has a certain historical context to it, it's more felt the other way around, I think, if that makes sense. Like it's more of a cultural thing.
Somebody said War Trek. The new one is
the new one. Yeah, the new one is a War Trek.
You got Streamlabs. All right, so wait, do we have anything else so we can get on? Because while we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard and you're talking about Biden not hitting her, I want to talk about the story that came out saying that she's being backed by Russophiles. Can you pull that article up?
Yeah, they're smearing her. So the way that they've attacked Tulsi Gabbard was because she's been anti-war, and because she's been anti-war, they've taken.
Now you want to pull up the
Right here, yeah.
Pull up the Streamlabs though before we go on to the next one.
I did.
Because I just want to see. Reparation. Oh, there's a couple of them. All right.
Tulsi is born. Okay, I read it. Tulsi is boring. She's more boring than Warren. Biden is softer, racist, Trump. Yeah, I agree with that. Bernie is a sheepdog-ish. That's an ish. The other 20 candidates are trash. The Democrats about to lose again in 2020. Unrelated, which y'all let each other have a side relationship. Would I let you have a side relationship?
We're not getting into that. We're not getting into that.
Why is the question wrong? I mean, that's not a...
It's not a wrong question, but first of all, in the last one he asked,
he's being a troll.
He asked he send you a mail order bride.
I know he's being a troll, but...
So why are we engaged in this?
But I have no feelings about the question.
Okay.
Like, I guess my point is...
What about if your wife has a feeling about the question?
Then my wife shouldn't have feelings about that question.
Should, could, would. What if she does? Are we going to have the conversation about?
It is far... Let me say it this way. It is far easier to pursue life when what takes place outside of it is less relevant. Especially to people who don't...
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, in a perfect world, whatever.
Okay. My answer to that is most likely no. She would not let me have a side relationship. And even if
Would you let me have a side relationship?
I am a product of this culture. So
I think that you would like to be able to let me have a side relationship. Like, I think that you feel like...
That's true.
You would like to be able to say, we'll have like an open relationship, or I'm not going to be ruled by society, the norms of our culture, blah, 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 blah. But when it gets down to it, if I be like, all right, babe, I'm going out here to meet Joe, around a little bit, and then I'll be back.
That's kind of my point. That's why I was like, that's why it's hard to answer the question. The answer is, no, I'm a product of this culture. I was born here. I was raised here. I've spent my entire life here. And there are certain cultural things
we're going to have a whole spiel in response to that, but we're not going to talk about the other stuff. Tulsi's boring. She's more boring than Warren. Now, I have said... Now, I don't know what you mean in regards to boring, but she has a very monotonous kind of...
She's so...
robotic.
I need her to do
she's
less...
trying to keep everyone calm.
Meditation.
And, this is me talking to you. And I'm just like...
She's like she's uber rational, which is nice, but
no, I
that
need
doesn't...
you to get angry.
I don't need her to rage out. Don't misunderstand me, but if... I
want you to express some feeling. Yeah. Every time I see her, she just seems to be this kind of drone-ish, and she has very good things to say.
Really calm.
If you can get past her kind of monotonous,
it's just
flatness.
All of it stays level. It's like, and by the way, there are a lot of people who think that's awesome. Like, who says, okay, I like the fact that she's just uber calm and so forth.
Do you think maybe she's doing that because they're like, women have too many emotions? No.
I think she does that because she meditates.
Because she's like, I was just about to say, she wake up and she's like...
Yeah, I think she gets into her zen shit.
And yeah.
And while I appreciate that, like, don't get me wrong, if shit is falling apart, things are flying around, I want somebody who's just calm and rational. Like, I want to be, I want things to be chill. But there are times where when Winston Churchill is giving that speech when the Nazis are on the gates, I don't want an uber calm and rational. I want somebody to get, like, I want Churchill getting out there, we're going to fight them on the gates. You're going to have your soup spoons and we're going to be fighting Nazis. I want that because I want to be rallied up to go out there, let's fucking fight some Nazis. I want to be losing it.
Calm down.
I don't want the calm,
I need you to
rational. I don't want that.
Just bring it down.
I don't want that.
Bring it down a little bit.
I'm just saying.
Somebody said no more coffee for you. He hadn't had coffee in days.
I've had coffee.
This is just Jamarl. It's because he wasn't breastfed.
That's exactly what it was. I wasn't breastfed.
All right, so we got a couple more.
Reparations.
A couple more Streamlabs to read.
Can't believe she didn't breastfeed me. I feel slighted.
I don't know if she's still on here, but you're gonna hear about this. You hope? We're not doing call-ins. I was going to say she call. We've got a couple more.
If you're for reparations despite not properly defining them, but are also for removing suffrage from prisoners, what does it say about a candidate's comments to people of color?
Commitment to
people of color. Let me say that one more time. If you're for reparations despite not properly defining them. But let's just say, I don't know, nobody knows what that means. Like, the bill that's out for reparations was to, investigate and study how to give reparations.
No one has clearly defined.
No one's clearly defined it. That's kind of the problem. I think everybody, it's kind of like feminism, right? It's like somebody says, I'm feminist, or somebody says I'm against it. It's like, okay, but what does that mean?
Well, you're not, because you want to make me force. You want to force me to breastfeed.
I want to force you to take care of your kid. Yes.
You want to force me to
I want to force you to take care of your child that you chose to be born.
One step away from supporting anti-abortion laws.
I am for women taking care of the kid that they brought onto this plane of existence.
Your next argument is going to be, forcing them to have and bring that
When that child comes out of your vagina, that child now has
certain rights. What if he comes
rights.
out of my stomach?
He still has certain rights. Should I not look after the rights of a born child that the mother decided to have, yes, as a state, I should, because the child can't do it for themselves. Yes, I want the mom to do that, but in lieu of the mom doing that, if that mom is not going to feed that kid a decent food, then yeah, I'm going to have issues with the mom.
All right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that back up. All right, we got two more, and then we
Well,
got to go on to
I don't
the
fully
next
understand this comment. If you're for reparations, the stat not properly defining them, but also for removing suffrage from prisoners, what does it say about a candidate's commitment to people of color? I don't fully know what that means.
He's talking about Sanders.
Yeah, no. If you're for reparations, see, I didn't know. He never said he was. I think Sanders' thing was, look, I'm trying to do something for the masses. Like you're in a country of what, 320 million, give or take, and in that country of 320 million, of roughly 13% are African American. I think roughly 15% are Hispanic, and then I think you have like 60% white with the other demographics. If from what you know of whites, and it is impossible for you to know all of, just from the people that you know and the conversations that you might have had and seen and so forth, what happens when a candidate gets up and says, all right, to everybody who is a descendant of a slave, I'm going to give X amount because we're going to give X amount back for money that they've earned, because technically they earned it. Their forefathers earned it. In the same way, the Koch brothers will pass on money to their kids, who pass on money to their kids, who pass on money to their kids. Their wages that weren't paid, that have gone through time and now needs to be paid by the U.S. government because the government essentially got that labor, or labor was done without payment. What do whites say on that? We're going to give all of these darkies a check. And you've cultivated this image of lazy, of not wanting to work, of so forth over the course of the last 50, 60 years. Mind you, we were the ones who were doing all the fucking work. And yet that image of not wanting to work, et cetera, et cetera. The same thing happens with Hispanics. This coding of an image. What does it mean when you tell that population, we're going to give these guys a check? And we're going to give it for reparations for past wages done.
Honestly,
I guess my point is, it creates chaos. It's not that I'm against it. I'm entirely for it. And I would imagine if you ask Sanders about it, his problem is somewhat of a political one. You can't make that case to a wider public.
I feel you. I mean, I guess,
sorry, you can't.
I guess my thing is we have beat this.
Right. Okay, we beat this to the ground.
You have done two separate. We have had lots of spiels against it. Bernie has come out and said how he feels against it. You're talking about how you feel.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I would say if you want to know exactly how he feels and how he feels about Bernie, I would say search the channel for reparations and look at the previous ones.
Fair enough.
All right.
Out of touch. Some people criticize Biden for being out of touch, but I'm glad he's out of touch. I don't want the man to be in touch of anyone.
I was just about to say, he's in touch. He touching. He is touching.
Oh God! Did you read that thing? I think it was. I don't remember if it was on the Daily Beast or what. It was an article, and it was one of the Secret Service agents was talking about how Biden would be out there for women, like would be like harassing his security agents. So like when one of the Secret Service agents are women, he would be like skinny dipping in the pool, whatnot, being nude and whatnot. It's like, oh, that's so wrong. That's so wrong.
Like a crass, dirty old man. All right, so Perfect Candidate says, we have to remember just how early we are in this. True.
That's true.
There's no way that candidates won't adopt each other's stance after the first debate. There's a super candidate formed from the best parts of some of the 22 candidates. I hope so. Like Voltron. Candidate. They're going to come together and form the perfect super candidate.
I don't know what that candidate would, like, if they push. So let's think of it this way. Let's say Sanders is to the far left, but the far left gets a little weird right now because Tulsi and many of these other people have adopted some of Sanders' things. So Tulsi and Sanders seem to be very similar on this. I trust Sanders more because Sanders has been the same way for the last 40-something years. But I like her foreign policy, man. I love her foreign policy. So if she pushes him on foreign policy, great. The question becomes, what does Bernie Sanders think in his head that he needs to be in order to win on a sense of foreign policy? Because that's where he is going to be. And I suspect that he is closer to her position than he would honestly say. And the reason why I think that the New York Times article that I was reading this morning, they were attacking Sanders. But the fact of it is, all the lefties who read that think, all of the lefties that are reading that are thinking to themselves, badass Sanders. You know, they were talking about him setting up a program to try to lessen Cold War tensions from Vermont. Like, he's a mayor of Vermont and he's doing like foreign policy. And they were trying to do this kind of as a Russia smear, when it really just came across as he understood how the United States was operating in the world, especially in the Southern Hemisphere and in regards to the Cold War.
Yeah.
The reporter who was talking to him seemed to be blissfully unaware of that. And he kind of he was like, do you know the policy of the United States? Why would, because she was like, was there anti-American sentiment in the audience? Did somebody yell, you know, like, fuck America? And he says, well, do you know what we were doing in Nicaragua at the time? And she says, yeah, but I mean, they seem to dislike America. And he's like, did you hear anything that I just told you?
Like, I don't think you're understanding.
I don't think you're understanding a word that I'm saying right now.
Are you going to do a separate video on that one? Because that was a pretty good article.
That was a damn good article.
I think maybe you should do a separate video on that.
We could talk about it, and I just may do a formal video on it. But we could talk about it.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to keep us on.
Go for it.
Because we have a couple more. Reparations. Kills for a Living comes back. He wanted to clarify. He said that was a comment about Tulsi, not Bernie, regarding reparations.
I see.
He said she supports reparations without defining what that means and doesn't want prisoners to have the right to vote. If you claim to support people of color and are against giving prisoners the right to vote, you're still supporting the system. So that's
actually a damn good comment. Like, that's not him being a troll. That's actually a good comment. Good. I like that one.
Okay, sorry. We just jumped and said
I didn't know she was against. She says that was a comment about Tulsi. She supports reparations that are defined. I guess, I mean, she's maybe like me on this point, where it's like, yeah, there should be reparations. People should be getting, you know, paid for the labor that they did. And then it becomes, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I can't fully hit her on that. I mean, nobody fully knows what it means. Like, if somebody says people of color should get a check,
that's a clear and concise.
Right. And I could have a back and forth on whether or not that's right. But right now it's so nebulous.
Yeah. Anna Maxa, thank you for the super chat. She says, it wasn't chess, it was stratagem.
Yeah. You're talking about Star Trek.
I'm not sure. I was hoping that you knew what she was referring to.
I think she was talking about where Data was having that.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right, can you pull up the YouTube video, the YouTube thing? All right, so I think we're done with Kamala and Biden. We're going to jump into, 1 minute
Tulsi,
32.
Backed by Russia vote.
Yeah, so we were talking about how the most recent article came out trying to smear Tulsi a little bit. You did. Saying that her campaign is being boosted by Putin apologists.
I gotta be honest, that article angered the hell out of me. Let me find it.
Oh, it's right here.
Where? Oh, okay. Yeah, this article bugged the shit out of me because it's red baiting. Like, it's overt, crystal clear red baiting. And by the way, some of the Putin apologists that she's talking about, I tend to love. I mean, Stephen Cohen is fucking awesome. Let's flip to the article.
Hawaiian Representative Tulsi Gabbard's campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination is being underwritten by some of the nation's leading Russophiles. Donors to her campaign in the first quarter of the year included Stephen Cohen, a Russian studies professor at NYU and prominent Kremlin sympathizer, Sharon Tennyson, a vocal Putin supporter who nonetheless found herself detained by Russian authorities in 2016, and also an employee of the Kremlin-backed broadcaster RT, who appears to have donated under the alias Goofy Grapes. They say Gabbard is one of her party's more Russia-friendly voices in an era of deep democratic suspicion of the country over its efforts to tip the 2016 election in favor of President Donald Trump.
Just so we're clear, what's the negative in this article? Just that she had people who were friendly to
Kremlin sympathizers are giving her money.
I mean, but what does that mean? What does a Kremlin sympathizer mean? So, are they working for the Kremlin? Are they Americans? Is it they just disagree with American foreign policy? What do they mean? I don't know what they mean. Like, what is?
Well, what about Stephen Cohen?
Stephen Cohen is a professor. He just has Russia studies. I mean, why is that a bad thing?
Because he's for Russia.
I guess Russia. God, man, this article is like,
somebody shared this and I was like, what?
I mean, all of this is like, hey, there's some people who don't like war And those people are given to Tulsi Gabbard. That's basically what this article is. There's a lot of people who don't like war. They don't like the fact that the United States is in this kind of, this position with a superpower, another nuclear power. And those people are given to Tulsi Gabbard. Is it possible that they're not given to Tulsi Gabbard because they're supportive of Putin, but because they don't like war? And they don't like the fact that we're 2 minutes to midnight, that they don't like the fact that we're in one conflict after the next all over the world, all, mind you, at odds with Russia. Somebody made this point of saying, if Vladimir Putin thought he was getting a friend with Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin was greatly mistaken, seeing as the policy of the United States has put it at odds at one stroke after another. Yeah. Venezuela, attacks on Venezuela, again, a Russia ally. Attacks on Iran, again, a Russia ally. Attacks on Syria, again, a Russia ally. Bombing Syria. Yeah. Arming the Ukraine. Mind you, the Ukraine are Nazis and are out there trying to kill Russians. This could not have been a worse deal for Russia if that's what they were trying to get, with the exception that Clinton would have probably started a war. So there's that. But not being antagonistic to Russia is not in and of itself a crime. And if your political positioning is, maybe I don't want conflict here, that's not a bad thing. I'm sorry, that's not a bad thing. I'm not going to take any shit, especially not a lesson, off of the Democratic Party on cheating elections. You know what I mean? It's like
but Russia.
It's like, but Democratic Party.
But Russia.
They cheated my guy.
But Russia.
I don't want to hear shit from anybody on the Daily Beast or anywhere else. I'm not putting your hand in your face. I'm putting my hand at the screen.
Do it again.
Put my hand at
the screen. Now look at the screen. Do it again. Now leave your hand.
What?
Do it again. Do it again and leave your hand up there and look at the camera.
I can't do both.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like speed of a proton or something. You can only get.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is this going to be something that we talked about other?
This is not going to matter.
No. I'm wondering. There's 22 people currently on the Democratic ticket potentially. Are any of them going to use this to hit Tulsi?
Yes, all of them. They're going to call her Assad apologist. They're going to call her Assad apologist, a Putin apologist. They're going to call all those things. The American public doesn't care. Democratic public may. The American public does not. When they did polls about what were the most important things to them, do you know where Russia ranked? It was like 1%. It was like nothing. The Democratic Party literally put their hopes into something where only like 1 or 2% of the public really cared about. Are their kids going to go to school? They care about that. Whether they're going to be able to get health care, they care about that. If Social Security is going to be there, they care about that. Russia? No, they don't. Meaning, these smears may do well for people within the party itself. The people who read
that's what I'm talking about. If she's up there with Biden and Biden's talking about how, or she's talking to Elizabeth Warren and Elizabeth Warren is talking about Fox News and she's like, well, what about Russia and the people who are giving you money? On Tulsi, what about that?
But none of those people have anything to do with Russia other than being just not wanting war.
No, I think Cohen is
Cohen is a professor, and it's true they have some people on RT, but that's like saying I support the TPP and Donald Trump supports the TPP, so ha. I was like, what does that mean? Or Nigel Farage supports Brexit and what's his name supports Brexit. I can't support something that somebody who I think is detestable supports. It's nonsense. Hitler likes dogs, and so you like dogs. Ha! You're kin to Hitler. This is nonsense argument. There are people who work at RT who say, I don't want a war with the United States. That's the same position. And those people say, of the candidates, one candidate doesn't want this type of war, Tulsi Gabbard. So I support the fact that she doesn't want that war because I don't want a war. And that may be an overriding issue of everything else. And so this notion that, these Russophobes or Russophiles, it's people who don't necessarily want war. And the guiding star of her campaign over anything else is, let's stop these wars, these regime change wars. She said it 30 times in a 2-minute spot.
Yeah.
Constantly. In fact, she's pushing back on America going to war with Iran. She's doing so heavily. And I got to be honest, I know Sanders tweeted about this, but I don't know if I haven't heard him openly. I haven't heard him say this in a speech, let's say it that way, or in a campaign video. And usually I see all of his campaign videos. But Tulsi Gabbard is being strong on this. It's not that she loves Putin, by the way. You know what I mean? It's, I don't want war. It seems that Americans have a hard time distinguishing the difference between those things. It's, It's not, I'm in love with Maduro. It's, I don't think we should be attacking Venezuela with sanctions because there are thousands and tens of thousands of people that are being injured by those sanctions.
Right.
And what is the issues of Venezuela are the issues of Venezuela, not us. You know what I mean? There's a drastic difference between those things. But people who talk about it often gets rid of that part and acts as if there's no intervening difference between those things. It's like, it's not that I love Assad. It's more so I don't think we should be using our money, resources, and troops to do anything within regards to Syria. It's none of our business. We shouldn't be there. Afghanistan, same thing. Iraq, same thing. If we're going to spend $1 trillion, how about we spend $1 trillion here?
Yeah.
Building. I want to have a fucking Star Trek city. That's what I want. I want those resources put into public works. I mean, like it's.
I understand.
Like I want people to have energy where their houses do that automatically. I want people to have high-speed rail. I want a flying car. I want those things. And I can't get those things if we're spending $1 trillion. Do you realize our infrastructure is literally failing in this country? You've been to Dubai. You've seen Dubai. And I'm talking to you. You yourself have seen Dubai.
Oh, I see you looking at me.
And, like, it's space age. Like, it's hard to get
They don't
like,
have flying cars,
man. They don't have flying cars, but it's hard to get the disparity between those things. Our infrastructure and everything else is crumbling and falling down, and that place looked like it's like a city on the sky. And I understand it's built with slave labor and all this other stuff. I'm just saying, if we dropped as much money internally into the domestic affairs of this country as we're dropping into military, oh my God. Have a different country, man. Let's take a look at Tulsi. Tulsi is being strong on this anti-war stuff. So let's see her be strong on this anti-war stuff. This is a clip of video that she herself put out. So shout out to Tulsi for taking the time to do this.
President Trump promised us during his campaign to get the United States out of stupid wars.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. We will stop racing to topple foreign regimes that we know nothing about.
But he's on the brink of launching a very stupid and costly war with Iran. We have to stop President Trump from starting a war with Iran. And the president is listening to his national security advisor, John Bolton, and other war hawks in his administration who have championed the war with Iraq in the past and who've been pushing for war with Iran for years.
Our goal should be regime change in Iran.
There is a viable opposition to the rule of the Ayatollahs. The only solution is to change the regime itself.
Bolton and others lied to us about the war in Iraq. They said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and that he was going to give them to al-Qaeda. Now that war was devastating. Over 4,000 of my brothers and sisters in uniform were killed. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians killed. Trillions of our taxpayer dollars wasted. And al-Qaeda and ISIS were strengthened. But to this day, John Bolton says that disastrous war in Iraq was the right decision.
I don't think there's any question that the decision to overthrow Saddam Hussein was the correct decision.
So now we're being lied to again, as Bolton and Trump push us closer and closer to a war with Iran that would prove far more costly and devastating than anything we experienced in Iraq. It would result in far more American troops being killed and injured, cause great suffering for the Iranian people and others in the region. It would exacerbate the refugee crisis in Europe and risk direct U.S. conflict with Russia.
And by the way, we're alone. We are alone, entirely alone in the world in this. Pompeo went to Brussels. He went there on a surprise. Nobody knew he was going to show up. Where did he go? He went to the JCPOA meeting. Now, the JCPOA meeting was being held by the other powers of the world that did not include the United States because the United States unilaterally pulled out. Pompeo gets there, tries to get them to join him, to get them to pressure Iran, to help with this. And they told him to kick rocks. She openly told him to kick rocks, gave a speech in which she stood in a microphone and said, kick rocks.
She didn't say that.
She said just that, kick rocks. Literally that, kick rocks. That's what she told him. And he left.
Verbatim.
Tail between legs.
She literally said those words, kick rocks.
Phonetically, yes. Phonetically, yes.
So no.
He left. By himself. Like, he got nothing.
No support.
No support. Zero support. No power in the world is supporting the United States on this. The United States is complete unilateral in this. Iran now has decided we're going to up the ante because they said, look, we're going to pull back on some of these guidelines. Now, why shouldn't they? Nobody else is.
Right.
Like, they've left them to their own devices. The problem here is the United States is by itself. So Bolton's perspective is, let's tighten it. But again, you're by yourself. Meaning everybody looks at this as being a brazen thing by the United States that has no support from the rest of the world. The world knows what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what it is. And then you put this other thing, you have 2 years to get this done. Because I'm going to be out of office in 2 years because I'm going to fucking lose the next election. Depending on who they put up. And so now you have a pressure cooker environment. Well, you got to get this done immediately. So what does that mean? How do you ratchet up tension in this way? Let's add in military support. Let's threaten. I'm going to punch you in the face after lunch. This type of stuff. And again, no support. And so he's militarily amping this thing up. Then the Houthis come out and bomb a ship. They bomb a fucking ship. And I'm watching this and I'm like, and my first thought was, oh God, that's a false flag. This is bullshit. Nobody's going to buy that. Like, it's too brazen. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Even though media acts as if that never took place, the world knows that took place. There were no weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. Do you realize I got into this big fight with a really close friend of mine, and she hates my guts to this day, even though she doesn't say anything about it. No, the woman at the clinic, Allison. And I got into this argument with her because she was a soldier in that war. And I said, there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And she says, yes, there were. I said, no, there weren't. Yes, there were. I said, do you realize even Dick Cheney admits that there were no weapons of mass, and she defiantly is like, yes, they were. And I'm getting more enraged as this conversation goes on. And it's like, many people died in that fucking conflict. What do you mean there's no what? Like, how can you not know this? It feels like just basic information as a human being of operating your affairs to know that there were no fucking weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And now you have Iran. And you have this same, my anger in this was justified to some degree because it's like, you realize that if this happens again, you need this in your memory to not let this happen again. This should never happen again. And the fact that she, doesn't own up to that. The Iran thing, I was like, that's a false flag. And then the Houthis come on and said, we did that. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Here we go.
I was like, oh, fuck. Why? Why would you ever come out and say that? Even if it's true, why would you come out and say it? And then I thought, maybe they were told to say yes. I mean, it is not beyond belief that Iran, which stretches, if there's any contact at all that you can kind of effect to do such a thing, to show, look, you can be bitten. Don't misunderstand this. We can't win a war in this case, but you can be bitten. Not to mention, you don't know the collateral damage that is going to take place if you attack us. So to some degree, that's Iran's basic threat. We can't win, but you will hurt. You will suffer if you do so. But nobody knows what suffer means in this case. So is it necessarily wrong to try to bite to show at the very least that there are ways that we could get at you that are asymmetrical? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Nor do I know the answer to whether or not somebody who is in the Houthis, who may not have any association with Iran at all, looks at this and says, the United States is overstepping its bounds, and I'm going to do X, meaning an independent agent in this, just punch him in the nose. All of that's true. This is fucking fascinating politics. This is one of those things where you get into this kind of, it's Game of Thrones in real life in an odd way, where one party is a weaker party in this, but they have agents that were willing to assist them. And again, I still make the point that we have no idea the consequences of that. You don't have a unipolar world. This is not Iraq. You don't have support. You don't have a country or a world that would at the very least buy what you're selling for 3-4 years in. You don't have a Europe that is with you. You don't even have Russia and China, in this case, may not sit this out, if that makes sense. I mean, let's be clear. You have a United States that at this point has started attacking nations at will.
Yeah.
That is extraordinary. When you look at what Nazi Germany was doing, let's say, take out the death camps. Just take out that part. And just have Nazi Germany. And Hitler taking countries. Now, you may say, well, the United States takes countries in a different way. Fair enough. But let's be earnest and say they're taking countries. And if you're talking about toppling Libya, Syria, this is extraordinary. So I wouldn't necessarily be insane for countries of the world to be like, yeah, maybe that's too much. Like, Iran is too far. That type of thing. Especially when all of them have said, we are against what is taking place. Yeah. Iran is freaked out by this. I've been watching Iranian media. I've even been watching some of the other, like Japan, China, and so forth. And the foreign minister is kind of making this pitch, not just in the sense of to the United States or people in the U.S., but also to like other Western power or other powers in the region, saying like, look, do you really want a U.S. presence in this part of the world? Shouldn't we stand together in this part? He's freaked out. He should be freaked out.
Or is there more to this to watch?
A little bit more.
Let's close this out.
Yeah.
Conflict that could easily lead to nuclear war. So join me in sending a strong message to Donald Trump. The U.S. must not go to war with Iran.
Tulsi,
2020. This is why people like her campaign, man. God, I hope she gets more traction. I really do.
I thought you said something else.
No, I just hope she gets more traction.
All right, do we have anything else for this one before we close it out and go to the next one?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Russiagate stuff is nonsense. There was no Trump in Russia. And if you want to say that Russia intervened into the political affairs by putting Facebook and Twitter ads, I'm going to laugh at you. I'm sorry, I'm going to laugh at you. So I've lost a friend over this. I lost a friend over this. Let you live. Like, because ultimately, you know, I would say he couldn't let the Russia stuff go.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Well, it became this issue of Trump and Russia.
I know.
And my thing was,
I've seen it. Okay.
What? Speak your mind.
We're gonna go on to the next one.
I would say
it's more. I've seen like a quote where they say it's more like, I don't know how the quote goes, but it's more important for you to be right.
I was right.
Than to.
I was absolutely right.
Like, keep a relationship intact.
Well, it was more important for him.
For you, when you're having a conversation with someone, it's more important for you to be right and get across your rightness.
I would say this.
Then,
in this case, this was one of those situations where I even said, let's talk about something else. In fact, the last thing I said, let's talk about something else. Let's not keep having this conversation because this conversation is, that type of stuff. And he could not let it go. I think what it was, if anything, I came at that argument far too strong in the sense of, I know I am absolutely right, and this is somewhat unimpeachable. And I think I took that position because in a weird way, it was somewhat the opposite. Like, the argument, or the mainstream argument in this was Russia clearly had something to do with it, and Donald Trump was clearly working with the Russians. That was the mainstream argument. And so that was the dominant argument in a sense. So I think I might have been a little bit stronger on that point just to kind of compensate.
Okay.
But I was right.
That's not the point I'm trying to make. It's not always about being right.
And I did try to move on from the conversation. So it wasn't fully me.
We're going to move on to the... Wayne Wilson said, where'd you get the t-shirt, Jamal?
We made this one. This was one of our...
Who made it?
We made this t-shirt.
Who?
We.
Who? We? Yes? You speak in French? Yes, made the t-shirt? I made that t-shirt.
We made that t-shirt.
All by my lonesome. And that one specifically, I think I gave him as a gift. I even went out and got the shirt myself, the supplies myself, and did it I made that t-shirt.
Just so we're clear. Wait. Just so we're clear. There would have been no Be the Integrity without this channel and me doing what I do.
Okay, you may have...
The meaning, it would have been impossible for this particular t-shirt to be made without the appearance
that
of
just
myself.
means you inspired the t-shirt. But who made it? Me. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic because I'm not trying to be here till 5 o'clock at night and I still have to split all the videos up. So let's go do the spiel. All right, so we're at 1:53. All right, go ahead and pull up the next one, and I'm just going to do our quick patron appreciation spiel.
Go for it.
If you are enjoying this smorgasbord of topics, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It does some kind of weird YouTube algorithm, and we get more viewers. More people can see that we're live. If you did not hear earlier, this is Patron Appreciation, aka Contributor Appreciation. This is the weekly show where we pull topics from the Patron Appreciation platform and other suggestions. The live show, of course, is going on now, and then afterwards we will be stripping this and putting it available to patrons only. We did announce earlier today that we will be splitting the videos according to the topics. Usually we just take the whole 2-hour-long video and drop it into Patreon, but I'm going to split them up into topics and give different headers so that if you just want to hear about Tulsi Gabbard, you can easily just click on that. You don't have to go through the whole video. So that will be up either today or tomorrow for patrons. It will also be dropped into the YouTube exclusive group, kind of Facebook group. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It will be dropped into the Facebook group that we have. People give outside of Patreon. So if you are giving through Streamlabs, Super Chat, PayPal, any way that you give and you're interested in getting that exclusive content, just send us the email and we'll give you a link so that you can join the Facebook page. Also, if you did not see, the first video is up for Black Box. That is Jamal's new sister channel.
Yes.
So the Superman video is up. We did an announcement at 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday on Saturday. So check out that video if you want. But the link is in the description box for this video, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
And in that video, make sure that you're going to the right Black Box channel. But yeah, the first video is officially up for Black Box.
Yes.
And so I think that's it. Thank you guys for being here.
Here we are.
If you enjoy this, again, give us a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, consider being a subscriber. If you're not a patron, consider being a patron. It takes as little as $1 a month contribution, and you get access to exclusive content. And that is, again, where we pull today's topics from. If you are a patron, please be sure to log in to the weekly post and give us your topic suggestions. We didn't get topics for this week, and so if you don't tell him what to talk about, who knows where we'll end up.
Yeah, we could be anywhere.
We spent 30 minutes this morning talking about breastfeeding. So please make sure that you give us topic suggestions. And if you are contributing somewhere else, and, people send through email suggestions, all the time.
All the time.
Feel free. The email is in the link below, or the email information is in the description box below, as well as the P.O. box. We did give a shout out. I'm not going to share the gentleman's name because we didn't get permission to do so, but we did get support through the post office box this week. So thank you to the gentleman who sent the support through the mail. Some people don't do, PayPal and Patreon, so we understand. If you're interested in sending anything else through the mail to Jamal, I think I'm running out of steam.
Yeah, okay.
The P.O. box is in the description box below, so feel free to do that.
All right.
So we're ready.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one.
All right, so let's go to the next one. This one is a New York Times article. One of my subscribers sent this. Who sent this? Elephants.
This one
on
came
Coke?
in the mail. Oh, Elephants on Coke. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a patron message.
was a patron.
He didn't post it, but he did send a patron
This
message.
is a patron message.
Okay.
I did my best to stop American foreign policy. I love that. I did my best to stop American foreign policy. Bernie Sanders on the 1980s. Now, that sounds like, is there a better way that you could have put that? I mean, that just sounds a little dicey. You're putting him out to the American public, paper of record, and do you really want to have that headline, I did my best to stop American foreign policy? Now, to some degree that's true, but having that as a title gives across a certain connotation.
Yeah.
Just saying that's kind of the way I see it. In an interview, one of the leading candidates for the 2020 American presidential nomination discusses his long-held opposition to war and his support for social leaders. Now, any lefty looks at this and says, yes, this is like, oh man, this is red meat for lefties. But to a larger audience, I don't know. I mean, fact of the matter is, the woman who he's answering, I can't share the questions because I don't have a subscription, but I'll give you what I mean. It's as if she had no idea what American foreign policy was, and she was utterly astounded that there might have been people who dislike America for what America was doing, meaning supporting warlords or supporting kill squads in their country to try to take down the government of their country. And she's shocked as shit that people didn't like that, and that Bernie Sanders might have been at a crowd that didn't particularly like that. And Bernie Sanders said to ask her, did you hear what I just said to you? Like, are you unaware? And he's getting pissed off at her as this interview goes on. So He says, let me just say this. I plead guilty to, throughout my adult life, doing everything that I can to prevent war and destruction. And good. And yes. As a young person, long before I ever held any position, I was active in opposition to the war in Vietnam. As a mayor, I did my best to stop American foreign policy, which for years was overthrowing governments in Latin America and installing puppet regimes. Yes! This is what I mean. This is Red Meat for Lefties. I did everything that I could as a mayor of a small city to stop the United States from getting involved into another war in Central America, trying to overthrow the government. I am very proud that in my small city we established 2 sister programs, which I believe honestly are still going on today. One in Russia, one in Nicaragua. And I happen to believe that the cultural exchanges and small student exchanges are a very important tool to try to bring people together and avoid wars. I don't see anything wrong with this at all. Like, that sounds the most logical thing in the world to me. All right, so she goes to her question. In the top of our story, we talked about a rally you attended in Managua and a Wire report at the time that said there were anti-American chants from the crowd. Now, everything that I just read to you is what Bernie Sanders told to her. And that's what he said. Understand what he just said to her. He says, we are overthrowing governments in Latin America and we are installing puppet regimes in those countries. Now, the assumption here is that those places welcome that overthrow with open arms and cheering like Superman.
Yeah, like, why didn't people love that you were there?
Why didn't people love that you were there? That's nonsense. Those people hated the fact that America was doing it. This is utter nonsense that he's telling her, we've been doing bad things in Latin America. And her first question after that is, we talked about people in Managua saying that there were anti-American chants from the crowd.
You fucking bet there were.
Yeah, because we were overthrowing puppet regimes. The United States at the time, I don't know how much you know about this, was actively involved in supporting the Contras to overthrow the government so that there's anti-American sentiment. I can remember that. Very clearly.
I love how he says, I don't know how much you know about
I don't know how much you know about
this. Which is clearly not that much.
Because he just gave her a history lesson. Like, that's an astonishing thing. I love that. And he says, you do recall those chants. Let me put this back on. She says, you do recall hearing those chants? What are you, a prosecutor? And it's just, I don't know how he can't be indignant in this. Like, I can see him getting pissed off. He's 70-some years old. He probably is, a lot of places to be. And you're asking him stupid questions. He's like, I was very involved in, yes, trying to have cultural exchanges. We were doing bad things in those countries. We were overthrowing governments. We were supporting these kill squads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So people didn't like America there. I don't know how much you know about this, but yes, people didn't particularly like America because of what we're doing there.
Because of what I just
So you did hear those chants in the crowd, Mr. Sanders. That's what she asked. She says, you do recall hearing those chants. I think the Wire report has the saying, here, here, there, Yankee everywhere, Yankee we will die. They were fighting against America. Yes. What's your point? She's fucking mental. Like
and
this,
who is this?
This is mental. This is in the New York Times. Who is this? Sydney Ember. I invited her to come on the show, by the way. I sent her a tweet. I said, hey, Sydney, I saw your article about Bernie Sanders. I'd love for you to come on the show to talk about that article. She'll never answer me back. She would never be on the show. I guarantee you she would never be on the show.
I'll watch it.
This woman is a lunatic. I mean, how are you working for the New York Times? And I don't say that because she's a woman. I say that because she's a person.
Because she's a woman.
I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, he's being,
No, these are some dumbass questions. That's why.
That's a dumbass question. Come on. This is a dumbass question.
Vagina, penis, whatever. We can all be dumb sometimes.
And he's like, she says, I wanted to, he says, and are you shocked to learn there was anti-American sentiment? And she says, my point is, I wanted to know if you had heard that.
Okay, why?
How, like, you're, let's say you're in Iran right now. And let's say you overtly know that America has put sanctions on your country that is causing thousands, tens of thousands of people like you to die. They're doing that not because you haven't done anything wrong per se. Mm-hmm. They're doing that for imperialistic aims. You know that. That's something that is bred into you. And there's somebody in this country that wants to try to not have that war to take place, and is being this kind of intermediary of sorts of saying, look, I want to stop this conflict. I don't agree with this conflict.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what the government of Iran is. I just don't agree with my government needing to get involved in this. And that person going over there, and at a rally, they're hearing people saying, fuck America. You know. And then this person comes back into the country, and they get a dumbass journalist like Sydney Ember.
Now she's not going to come on the
asking
show.
questions. Well, she wasn't going to come on anyway. Asking questions of saying, hey, did you hear anti-American sentiment over there? Yeah, I mean, we were
doing bad stuff there.
We were doing bad stuff there. We were attacking their country and trying to overthrow the government. Yeah, I know, but did you hear them say bad things there? I heard at that rally that you were at, they said, fuck America. Well, did you hear that I just said they were trying to overthrow the government? Not to mention we've overthrown their government once before and put in a brutal dictator. I mean, yeah, they may have some bad feelings about it, but I'm just trying to establish, Mr. Sanders,
that you heard it.
And it's like, are you completely unaware of what we've done in those countries? Do you like, this is a maddening conversation that they're having. It's astonishing. Like, it's utterly astonishing. He says, I think, Sydney, with all due respect, you don't understand the word that I am saying. So he gets it at this point, like this woman. Like, yeah. What's the blind spot? What's the blind spot? How do you work at the New York Times? How? Have they lowered the standard for people to get into the New York Times? Is that what's taking place? Maybe they have to pay their reporters less now because, you know, less people are buying articles because they can get it online. Maybe that's what it is. Less of a standards. Because this is an astonishing article. Do you believe you had an accurate view of President Ortega at the time? I'm wondering if that was not about Ortega. Like, this is, again, this conversation that, because I don't want war, that I'm somehow wed to the people who are in charge of that country. No, it's not about the person who's in charge of the country. It's not about that country at all. It's about what we do. That's what it boils down to. That's his point. He's like, that was not about Ortega. He even stops her before she even gets to that point. This is what they hit Tulsi Gabbard with. Oh, she's a Putin apologist. Oh, she's an Assad apologist. Oh, Tulsi, please tell me you didn't shake the hand of that murderer. And, you know, like that. This is the way they hit her and they frame her. Missing the point that it's not about the guy who's in that country. That country has to deal with its own country's affairs. We had slavery in this country at one point. I mean, come on, like, for fuck's sake. Every country has their own development. Each country has their own war that they fight in regards to kind of pushing for a certain liberation. We don't have to get involved. I am perfectly involved in this kind of Star Trek-esque don't interfere. To the degree that you can't interfere. I'm not necessarily a dove on this front. If I believe that we were kind of in jeopardy, then yes. But let's be clear, this is not a Department of Defense. This is the Department of War. And that's not necessarily the way we've used our military. I mean, come on. Like, this is an astonishing point of view for them to take. This is why I want Tulsi on that debate stage. I want Biden framing shit like this. Because he would get crushed. I think if you honestly asked the American public, do you think we should be spending our money blowing shit up or dealing with our own affairs? And to the degree you might find people who are, let's say, right-leaning, but to the degree they're being honest, they say, look, I don't want us, fuck killing people.
Right.
It can be it. But from a governmental standpoint, it makes sense politically for them to say there are bad things over there that can eat us. And so we need to do something to get those things. Now, what they don't say is we have interests in there that go beyond just militarist, that go almost into this kind of ideological and even capitalistic
like ulterior
resources.
Motives.
Yeah. It's not just a security thing. We spend $1 trillion on our military. Like, let's be clear, it's not a security thing. Saddam might have been a menace to the people of Iraq, but he wasn't a menace to us. For fuck's sake. Same thing with Iran. Same thing with, across the board.
Yeah. So this article you can't read all of because the New York Times wants you to subscribe to be able to view all of it. But we'll put the link in the description box so that if you are a subscriber or a member or have an account with the New York Times, you can check it out. Can we put the link in the description box?
Yeah, I'll put it in the description box. Oh God, that's a maddening article. Like I read this and it's how wars propagate, right? Like it's hard to explain. I guess when I I try to think of what I was before what I am now. Point of view wise. I try to figure out how I operated in that space. And I operated in that space in a sense of, I know there were things in the world, but I didn't necessarily pay attention to those things. I was just kind of paying attention to this narrow window of everyday life. I need to get a job. I need to have sex. I need to eat. I need to do X. I need to do Y. And news came up, and it was kind of just news. It was just information. Like, there wasn't a real world component to it, if that makes sense. I don't understand how this conversation could take place. Like, it's a complete misunderstanding in regards to how other people are. It's entirely unempathetic. It's like there was anti-American sentiment in that audience, Mr. Sanders. Yes, there was, because we were overthrowing their country. Yeah, but I mean, but you were there while there were anti-American sentiment. Like, what are you trying to imply, that he's somehow anti-American because he was at a place that was pissed off? And even still, the fact that they were pissed off at all.
My thing is, what is the point that you're trying to make here?
It's like, what's the point? But for me, it gets worse than that, because it's a fundamental misunderstanding. Like, that when you overthrow a country, those people will hate your fucking guts for overthrowing that country. Like, when we were bombing people and you blow up a school bus and you kill somebody's kid, that kid has every right, like every moral justification from our standards, to be pissed off at you for doing so. You know, that guy goes and kills an American. Is that person morally justified? Were you morally justified in killing this fucking kid? And not just killing his kid, to just kind of call it was collateral damage. Even have a name for it. It sanitizes what it is. You know, it's not, we've just murdered a child that had nothing to do with, you know, this war that you guys were propagating. It's collateral damage. Smooth that shit over. Get some lunch. I just find it's astonishing, the American perspective on this stuff. Even Iraq. Now, as an African American in this country, I deal with, you know, it's like there's a population that looks at it and says, you darkins should be further ahead than what you are right now. That was a perspective. And, you know, whites in the 80s were more honest in regards to how they used to talk. You can hear it on video. If you look at James Baldwin and all that stuff, the old footage. It was more allowed, that latitude of conversation. And yeah, it was more allowed in that particular part of the conversation. I like, I don't know. Let's keep going. This just annoys me. This annoys me greatly. I just hate this perspective, as if people aren't people. Of course they're gonna be pissed off.
Yeah.
Of course. The Iraq thing. I know what I was getting at. The Iraq thing. How we blow a country to shit. Blow it to shit completely. And then I remember at a certain point, like a few years in, it's like, all right, we've done all we can. They should be able to get on now. And you're just like, wait a minute, you blew their country to shit. It was like 3-4 years in, it's like, all right, they should be good now. We can't keep holding the Iraqis up. We destroyed a country that has consequences. Just saying, man. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, this article is maddening. I'll put it at the bottom. In fact, if we're cutting the videos, I just put it at the bottom of the video.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you guys can check it out.
Right.
And all of its shenanigans.
Want to show the
Nope.
show the you don't show it?
Nope.
Black
I
Bucket
want people
video?
to go give it views. I know this might be a little fucked up.
That's true.
But I want
That's
people to
true.
go look at it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we're wrapping up.
Yes, we're wrapping up.
So yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you all for showing up today. I appreciate all of the support.
Me?
I was letting you get your thing in.
Oh.
You're supposed to be paying attention, man.
Hi, I am. I'm paying attention. I thought you were going to say some more, and then you stopped. I was reading the comments to see was there anything that we needed to address, but I don't see that we're missing any super chats. I don't know if you want to check Streamlabs before we leave. Just one more reminder for patrons. After the video goes down, it will be available exclusively to patrons. So make sure that you log in If you missed any other topics that we talked about today, if you're not a patron, consider becoming a patron. If you're not contributing monetarily, we understand. Thank you for the support. Try to be a subscriber if you like the content. And if you enjoy the videos that you're watching, give it a thumbs up.
Yes.
So that he knows, what you guys are enjoying. And just come back again.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you. And I will see you. I'm not sure if it's going to be today. Maybe.
I'm planning a video.
I might play chess today. Oh, right. You want to do a video.
Am I going to do my video?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. You may see my wife.
I might be back this afternoon.
She wants to cut a video.
Solo mission.
Thanks all.
Have a good one.